Chapter 4014. This guy actually broke through the restrictive formation of the Imperial Library? How is that possible? Lin Yashin's pupils shrank to the size of needles as he exclaimed. When Lin Yashin's divine consciousness discovered Zhuowen, Zhuowen's enormous divine consciousness also landed on Lin Yashin. Lin Yashin, do you think the Imperial Library can do anything to me? What a joke! Zhuowen's majestic voice boomed like thunder, exploding through the entire Lin mountain range. Lin Yashin's expression was ugly. He hurriedly took out several formation flags and tossed them out. Instantly, the Lin mountain range changed color. Countless bolts of lightning, flames, and other energies spread out and enveloped the entire Lin mountain range. At that moment, Lin Yashin activated several heaven-breaking Tier 9 formations in the Lin mountain range. The moment Zhuowen's divine consciousness enveloped him, he sensed that this person was not simple. Therefore, he immediately activated the formations in the Lin mountain range. At the same time, he took out a communication jade talisman and summoned all the higher-ups of the Lin family, as well as the powerful cultivators who had received favors from the Lin family. In an instant, the entire Lin family was alarmed. Numerous figures rushed out and headed toward the Lin mountain range. Lin Longyao and Lin Danshan also woke up from their seclusion. They were shocked when they received Lin Yashin's urgent message. One had to know that this kind of emergency message would only be sent out in moments of life and death. Now that Lin Yashin had sent them such a message, could it be that he had encountered some kind of great danger? Therefore, although the two of them were confused, they did not dare to delay and hurriedly rushed toward the Lin mountain range. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In the blink of an eye, all the higher-ups of the Lin family had gathered around the Lin mountain range. Lin Danshan, Lin Longyao, the middle-aged scholar, and the other powerful cultivators had all gathered. Forefather, what happened? Lin Longyao hurriedly went forward and asked. Lin Yashin's face darkened. He said in a low voice, "That Daowen escaped from the Imperial Library." How could he have escaped? The Imperial Study Pavilion was set up with many restrictive formations. Even if it was an ordinary heaven-breaking Tier 9 formation, it would be difficult to escape after being trapped in the Imperial Study Pavilion. Lin Longyao was shocked. He was shocked, and his mouth was wide open. Lin Danshan's eyes flashed, and he became serious. He didn't expect Zhuowen to be so powerful that even the Imperial Pavilion couldn't trap him. We've underestimated this kid. If I'm not mistaken, this boy's array Dao level is not weaker than mine. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to break the Imperial Book Pavilion's restriction. Lin Yashin's eyes were gloomy. Lin Langshan, Lin Longyao, and the others were shocked. They didn't expect Lin Yashin to think so highly of Zhuowen. What kind of person was Lin Yashin? He was a divine array master who had already broken through the heavens tens of thousands of years ago. After tens of thousands of years of continuous research, his level of array Dao must have reached an even more terrifying level. Now, he actually said that Zhuowen's level was about the same as his. Lin Longyao and the others naturally couldn't accept it. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the violent energy in the Lin clan mountain range dissipated, and a terrifying purple-gold sword chi shot up into the sky. Wherever the purple-gold sword chi passed, the violent thunderbolts, raging flames, and raging black winds were all torn into pieces by the sword chi. The terrifying sword chi shot up into the sky and finally slashed the surface of several large arrays that enveloped the Lin clan mountain range. In an instant, the entire Lin clan mountain range shook violently. The huge mountains couldn't withstand the terrifying energy and broke apart one after another. They turned into rocks and rolled down, turning into ruins. Although the purple gold sword Qi was powerful, the large arrays around the Lin Clan mountain range were also extremely extraordinary. Although they were slightly dimmed by the sword Qi, they completely blocked it and were still glowing and emitting heat. At this moment, in the depths of the Lin Clan mountain range, a figure slowly walked through the air. This person's long hair was fluttering, and his sleeves were flapping. A purple gold divine sword circled around him, bursting with a rich purple gold light, illuminating him and making him look extremely mysterious. He was none other than Zhuo Wen. It really is a Dao rune. The moment Lin Longyao saw this figure, his face immediately turned gloomy. The attack just now was too terrifying. If he had taken it head-on, he would have died without a doubt. The several large arrays around the Lin Clan mountain range are all heaven-breaking Tier 9 arrays, and they are linked together. The combined power is extremely strong. This Dao rune can't possibly break it. Lin Longyao said confidently. Lin Yashin's eyes were cold as he said, "Don't underestimate this Dao rune. Longyao, take the upper echelons of the Lin Clan and line up around the Lin Clan mountain range. Maintain the large arrays around the Lin Clan mountain range for me. I plan to set up several more large arrays. We must trap this kid." Hearing this, although Lin Longyao felt that Lin Yashin was overly worried, he didn't dare to disobey the old man's orders. He hurriedly led Lin Danshan and the other upper echelons of the Lin Clan to line up around the Lin Clan mountain range. Each of them took out their array flags and formed hand seals to strengthen the Dao rune, the large arrays around the Lin Clan mountain range. Sure enough, with the support of Lin Longyao and the others, the several large arrays that had been weakened by Zhuo Wen's slash were revitalized and became more and more powerful. Within the large array, Zhuo Wen floated in midair. He naturally saw everything that was happening in the Lin Clan mountain range. "You think you can stop me like this? What a joke!" Zhuo Wen sneered. He took out several array discs from the Great World and formed hand seals with both hands. Immediately, the complicated patterns on the surface of the array discs lit up. Then, the array discs rushed into the sky above the large array like a long dragon. "Humph! I found the array core. No matter how many of you there are to maintain the large array, it's useless." The array discs coiled in the void, and a black vortex appeared in the void. It was the array core of the large arrays. Zhuo Wen sneered. He pointed the sword finger on his right hand, and the purple gold divine sword turned into a beam of purple gold light that shot into the black vortex. Bang! 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 Suddenly, an earth-shattering explosion came from the black vortex. Then, the entire large array shook violently, and the sound of glass shattering could be heard. Lin Longyao and the others who were maintaining the large array around the Lin Clan mountain range spat out mouthfuls of blood. Then, to their shock, they found that countless cracks had appeared on the surface of the large array in front of them. There were more and more cracks, and they were getting denser. "Oh no, the large array can't hold on any longer. Retreat." Lin Danshan reacted quickly and immediately left the large array. Lin Longyao and the others also retreated. Boom! The large array completely collapsed. Terrifying array ripples swept out like explosive energy and blasted Lin Longyao and the others. Uft. Chapter 40:15. Thud. Thud. The Lin Clan mountain range had been reduced to rubble due to the earlier battle, but the path leading to the mountain gate was still intact. As the thud approached, a black-haired, black-eyed young man slowly walked out. A purple gold divine sword circled around him, its aura as deep as the ocean. The purple gold light shone in all directions, dyeing the surroundings a strange purple gold color. Outside the Lin Clan mountain range, Lin Yashin's eyes narrowed when he saw the figure. "Dao, Wen, it looks like I've underestimated you. I didn't expect you to be able to escape from the heaven-breaking Tier 9 array around the Lin Clan mountain range. The middle-aged scholar and the other two peak fiend god transformation stage powerhouses hurriedly stood in front of Lin Yashin to protect him. They looked fearfully at the young man walking out from the mountain gate. They knew very well that the Lin Clan mountain range had several heaven-breaking Tier 9 arrays. Even with the Lin Clan's divine array masters present, this young man had still managed to break through them. Just how powerful was this young man? 3 heaven-breaking Tier 9 arrays. Lin Yashin, is this where your confidence comes from? Zhuo Wen slowly walked forward. His cold gaze shot out and landed on Lin Yashin. Lin Yashin shuddered. That gaze was so cold that he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Don't be too arrogant. Daowon, the Lin clan has been able to stand tall in the Bright Mist Main District for so many years. You can't even begin to imagine our strength. Lin Yashin snorted coldly as he took out 3 scrolls from his sleeves. These are top-grade summoning scrolls. The middle-aged scholar and the other 2 couldn't help but narrow their eyes when they saw the 3 scrolls. Zhuo Wen also saw the 3 scrolls in Lin Yashin's hands. He knew a thing or two about summoning scrolls. It was said that a summoning scroll was usually a contract between the person holding the scroll and the other person. Once the contract was formed, the person holding the scroll would have the right to use it to summon the other person. After being summoned, the person being summoned would have to do one thing for the summoning party. After completing the summoner's task, the summoning scroll would be nullified, and the summoned party would naturally be free. The summoned party could not only be cultivators, but also powerful demonic beasts, great demons, and other non-human cultivators. I've heard that the Lin clan's ancestor once traveled the world and used his superb array skills to sign a summoning scroll agreement with 3 top powerhouses. They all had the responsibility to help the Lin family's patriarch once. Among them is our Bright Mist Main region. The powerful cultivator, Yang Shuya, the middle-aged scholar said with a solemn expression. Yang Shuya, I know this person. He's a half-step ancient star transformation expert. In the Bright Mist Main region, he must be an extremely mysterious expert who is elusive and elusive. An expert beside the middle-aged scholar exclaimed. That's right. The targets of these 3 summoning scrolls are all half-step ancient star transformation experts. And one of them is Yang Xiuya. Lin Yashin said proudly. The middle-aged scholar and the others were shocked. Didn't this mean that the Lin clan now had 3 half-step ancient star transformation sovereigns in their ranks? It was no wonder that the Lin clan had never had a heaven-shaking expert to guard the Lin clan all these years. No other powers dared to invade the Lin clan. It turned out that the Lin clan had such a powerful trump card. Zhuo Wen looked at the summoning scrolls in Lin Yashin's hands with great interest. Although he had heard of summoning scrolls before, he had never used them before. After learning that Lin Yashin's summoning scrolls could summon half-step ancient star transformation experts, Zhuo Wen's interest was piqued. Lin Yashin glanced at Zhuo Wen with a smug expression. Daowon, now you know how powerful my Lin clan is. If you're afraid, I can still overlook your mistake of destroying the Lin clan mountain range, as long as you agree to my conditions. Zhuo Wen sneered. Lin Yashin, you think too highly of yourself. So what if you can summon 3 half-step ancient star transformation experts? I can destroy them all the same. As he spoke, Zhuo Wen stomped his right foot in the air. Suddenly, the entire space exploded with a terrifying sound. Zhuo Wen charged forward with unparalleled power. His speed was so fast that it was almost as if he had teleported. Lin Yashin's expression changed drastically. He threw out several array discs, and activated the 3 scrolls in his hands. The 3 scrolls opened, revealing some kind of extremely complicated array formation. At this moment, the 3 arrays within the scrolls suddenly exploded with blazing light. Glowing runes left the scrolls and condensed into divine chains of laws. They looked extremely mysterious and powerful. The instant the 3 scrolls were activated, Zhuowen appeared in front of Lin Yashin. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out. A terrifying explosion rang out as a ring of white clouds erupted with Zhuowen at the center. Bang! 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 The punch landed in front of Lin Yashin. Immediately, an invisible ripple of matrix Tao spread out, blocking the attack of the terrifying punch. Don't even think about harming the Lin family's patriarch. The moment Zhuowen was blocked by the array formation around Lin Yashin, the middle-aged scholar, and the other 2 reacted and surrounded him. They were inexplicably shocked. Zhuowen's speed was too fast. They only reacted when Zhuowen's fist landed on the defensive array in front of Lin Yashin. Just 3 ants. Zhuowen's gaze was calm. He pointed his sword finger in the air, and the violet gold divine sword whizzed out. It carried a violent violet gold sword chi as it slashed towards the lanky man on the far right. Although the lanky man's cultivation was at the peak of the celestial demon transformation, his aura was clearly weaker than the middle-aged scholar and the other person. The lanky man's eyes flashed coldly. He didn't dare to be careless and used his strongest attack. Thousand-hand demon god slash. The tall, skinny man's god fiend had 1,000 arms, and each arm held a powerful god fiend. When the lanky man shouted, the 1,000-hand demon god swung its 1,000 arms and slashed at the violet gold divine sword. Puchi! But to the lanky man's disbelief, the violet gold divine sword was too sharp. With a single slash, the 1,000-hand demon god's 1,000 arms were all chopped off. Blood splattered across the sky like a torrential downpour. Slash! Zhuowen's gaze was calm. He raised his sword finger above his head and slashed down. The violet gold divine sword drew an arc in the air and slashed at the lanky man's head. Ah, block it for me. The lanky man used all his fiend god strength and raised his hands to meet the attack. The surging fiend god's strength transformed into a tortoise shell that protected him. Chapter 40:16. The middle-aged scholar and his companion naturally saw the state of the skinny man's death. Although they were terrified, they did not flee. The 2 of them had already reached Zhuowen's side, flanking Zhuowen from both sides. The 2 gods and demons were like 2 mountains attacking Zhuowen from both sides. You overestimate yourselves. Zhuowen shook his head. He opened his arms and took the fists of the 2 gods and demons with his bare hands. Dong! The power of the 2 fiend gods was extremely terrifying. They landed on both sides of Zhuowen and exploded with rumbling sounds. Terrifying waves of clouds were set off in the surroundings and suddenly burst out in all directions. Following that, the middle-aged scholar and his companion were shocked to find that the youth, who was extremely small compared to the gods and demons, easily caught the fists of the 2 gods and demons. Your gods and demons are really too weak. Zhuowen shook his head. With a flick of his hand, the 2 gods and demons, as large as mountains, were ruthlessly thrown out by him, smashing into the middle-aged scholar and his companion. Puchi! The 2 of them were smashed by the gods and demons, spurting out blood as they were crushed to the ground. When they managed to put away the gods and demons, all the bones in their bodies were shattered. They lay in the crater, unable to move. How can there be such a powerful fiend god transformation cultivator? Is he really in the fiend god transformation? The middle-aged scholar's heart was filled with fear. This was the first time he had seen such a terrifying mid-stage fiend god transformation cultivator. Moreover, the middle-aged scholar noticed that Zhuowen hadn't even released his fiend god during the battle with the three of them. In other words, he had not used his full strength at all. Zhuowen did not even look at the two severely injured middle-aged scholar and his companion. When he was in the early stage of the fiend god transformation, he could easily defeat peak stage fiend god transformation cultivators. Now that he was in the mid-stage of the fiend god transformation, he did not even need to release his gods and demons to kill peak stage fiend god transformation cultivators. In his eyes, the middle-aged scholar and his companion were as insignificant as ants. After dealing with the middle-aged scholar and the other two, Zhuowen's gaze landed on Lin Yashan. Lin Yashan was shocked. The battle prowess that Zhuowen displayed just now really frightened him, the middle-aged scholar, and the other two were defeated so easily. This was something he had never expected. Lin Yashan, you shouldn't have provoked me. I am not someone you can afford to provoke. Zhuowen shook his head as a terrifying aura surged out like an ocean. He grabbed at the air with his right hand, and the violet gold divine sword appeared in his hand. Then he suddenly slashed forward. Instantly, the violet gold divine sword erupted with a blazing sword light. The moment it landed on the ripples of the array, an earth-shattering explosion erupted from the array. Ka-ka-ka! Terrifying sounds of collapsing could be heard coming from the surrounding array. Then, the array was completely destroyed. Lin Yashan, who was inside the formation, was affected by the aftermath of the formation's collapse. He let out a muffled groan and retreated continuously. However, the moment he retreated, he waved his sleeve and the 3 scrolls flew to his side. Lin Yashan was both shocked and furious, but he also felt some regret in his heart. He didn't expect Zhuowen to be so powerful. If he had known, he definitely wouldn't have offended such an expert so rashly. Just at the instant he retreated, a swift and fierce sound of wind whistled over. Only now did he discover to his shock and horror that a violet gold divine sword that had slashed apart his grand formation hadn't lost its momentum in the slightest, and it was shooting straight towards him at an inconceivable speed. No, Lin Yashan was finally afraid. He felt a deep chill. He knew that if he was hit by this sword, he would definitely die. And the summoning scroll hadn't completely taken effect yet. Just as Lin Yashan was feeling despair, the scroll on his left retracted its light, and then a figure appeared out of thin air. At this moment, the figure shouted coldly and punched out with both fists, slamming into the violet gold divine sword. Clang! 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 What shocked Zhuowen was that this person's fists were actually able to resist the sharpness of the violet gold divine sword. They were actually evenly matched. Zhuowen observed carefully and discovered that this person was wearing a pair of ice silk gloves. On the surface of the ice silk gloves, there was a lustrous white light that flowed with a powerful Tao aura. Rank 6 Astral Soldier. Zhuowen was shocked to discover that the ice silk gloves on this person's hand was actually a rank 6 Astral Soldier. Moreover, from the aura, it could be seen that the gloves were of a higher level than his violet gold divine sword. It had probably reached the peak of the rank 6 Astral Soldier. This was a middle-aged man with a sinister scar on his face. This person looked to be around 50 years old. He was short and only reached Zhuowen's chest. However, this middle-aged man's aura was extremely terrifying. It was as if he was an eternal giant, giving people a strong sense of oppression. Half-step ancient star transformation? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He could naturally see that this middle-aged man's aura was far stronger than the 3-peak demonic transformation middle-aged scholars. He was even stronger than the newly born heavenly devil evil king. Brother Yang Xiuya, fortunately you arrived in time. Otherwise, I would have already died. Lin Yashin wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. That moment was truly a matter of life and death. The short, middle-aged man was the strongest cultivator in the Bright Mist main region, Yang Shuya. His cultivation was at the half-step ancient star transformation, and his strength was infinitely close to the ancient star transformation. Yang Shuya looked at Lin Yashin indifferently before his gaze landed on Zhuowen, especially when he saw the violet gold divine sword revolving around Zhuowen. His eyes revealed a trace of surprise and greed. Brother Lin, a mere mid-stage demonic transformation cultivator, can make you so miserable? Yang Shuya asked curiously. Lin Yashin smiled bitterly. Brother Yang, don't underestimate this kid. Although his aura is not very strong, his strength is extremely terrifying. Brother Li and the other two were easily defeated by him. Li Yanshou? Yang Shuya's gaze turned serious when he saw the two heavily injured middle-aged scholars lying on the ground. He also knew Li Yanshou, who was at the peak of the demonic transformation stage. He was quite famous in the Bright Mist main region. Even such an expert had been defeated. It seemed that this mid-stage demonic transformation youth was not to be underestimated. Deng deng. At that moment, the other two scrolls suddenly collapsed and exploded with 2 rays of light. Within the 2 rays of light, 2 figures slowly appeared. Lin Yashin was pleasantly surprised. He knew that the other 2 top-grade summoning scrolls had taken effect. Lin Yashin, you haven't looked for me for so many years. Why did you have to summon me now? A tyrannical voice sounded, and a large black wolf, dozens of feet in size, stared coldly at Lin Yashin with a pair of scarlet eyes. He, you finally summoned me. Lin Yashin, I've helped you this time. You and I owe each other a favor. Don't bother me in the future. Beside the black wolf was a demon covered in scales. He had an evil smile on his face, but his voice was extremely cold. Chapter 40:17. Yang Shuya? The ancient devil of the void and the Black Wolf King immediately noticed Yang Shuya, and their gazes turned hostile. Whether it was the ancient void demon, Black Wolf King, or Yang Shuya, they were all top experts in the Hushu realm. Other than Huxley, almost no one in the Hushu realm dared to offend the 3 of them, especially Yang Shuya. He was a human cultivator and had never been on good terms with the ancient void demon and Black Wolf King. For this reason, Yang Shuya had fought with the Black Wolf King and the ancient demon of the void many times. It could be said that the grudges between them ran deep. Yang Shuya raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, Black Wolf King, ancient void demon, long time no see. The Black Wolf King bared his teeth and said coldly, It has indeed been a long time. Back then, you snuck into my Black Emperor palace alone and killed several of my descendants. Today, you and I must settle this grudge properly. The ancient void demon only looked at Yang Shuya indifferently and did not say anything. Instead, his gaze fell on Zhuowen. He knew very well that Lin Yashin would not summon them for no reason. Since he had summoned them, there must be something for them to do. And this matter should have something to do with the youth in front of him. Lin Yashin felt that Yang Shuya and the Black Wolf King were at loggerheads and hurriedly dissuaded them. Black Wolf King, now is not the time for internal strife. The 3 of you are now on the same side. The Black Wolf King snorted coldly and gradually withdrew his killing intent. He also knew that he was the one summoned by Lin Yashin. With Lin Yashin here, he had no chance of fighting Yang Shuya. Old Lin, speak. Why did you summon the 3 of us? The Black Wolf King said indifferently. Lin Yashin's venomous gaze fell on Zhuowen as he said, fiercely, my request is very simple. That is to completely take down this youth in front of us. Middle stage demonic transformation realm, the Black Wolf King glanced at Zhuowen and frowned. The moment he was summoned, he naturally noticed Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen's aura was simply too weak. He was only at the middle stage of the Fiend God transformation stage, so he didn't take him seriously at all. Now, Lin Yashin had spent a lot of effort to summon the three of them just to deal with this unknown young man. He wondered if there was something wrong with Lin Yashin's head. Black Wolf King, don't underestimate him. Look at that divine sword beside him. Yang Xiuya sneered. Only then did the Black Wolf King notice the divine sword that surrounded Zhuo when like a bodyguard and emitted a purple gold glow. This is the aura of a rank 6-star soldier. This little guy actually possesses this kind of strange treasure. The Black Wolf King exclaimed in surprise. 3 of you, don't underestimate this kid. His strength is beyond your imagination. He can kill peak Fiend God transformation experts as easily as slaughtering dogs. He's definitely not weaker than any of you. In fact, he might even be stronger, said Lin Yashin gravely. The Black Wolf King said nonchalantly, Old Man Lin, you're really getting worse and worse. How strong can a mere middle stage, Fiend God transformation stage, cultivator be? The reason he can kill peak Fiend God transformation experts is because of his rank 6-star soldier. Is it a rank 6-star soldier? Me, Yang Xiuya, and the Ancient Devil all have rank 6-star soldiers. And we're all half-step ancient star transformations. If I want to kill peak Fiend God transformation experts, I only need one move. The Ancient Demon of the Void and Yang Xiuya both nodded. The 3 of them were all half-step ancient star transformations experts. If Huxley's experts didn't appear, they could be said to be the strongest experts in the Hushu realm. No one could compete with them. They all had their own pride. So when they discovered that Zhuowen's cultivation wasn't very high, they didn't care too much. They even thought Lin Yashin was making a big fuss over nothing. Hearing this, Lin Yashin calmed down. The Black Wolf King's words weren't without reason. Zhuowen's previous performance was mostly due to the power of the purple gold divine sword. His own strength wasn't particularly outstanding. Yang Xiuya and the other 2 were all experts with rank 6-star soldiers. No matter how strong this Zhuowen was, the difference between them and him was too great. This battle, no matter how one looked at it, was one-sided. Old Man Lin, do you want me to help you kill this brat? The Black Wolf King asked, looking askance at Lin Yashin. Lin Yashin hurriedly shook his head and said, I still have a use for this kid. Don't kill him. It's best if you capture him alive. That's right, this kid's array, Dao level has also reached heaven-breaking level 9. To be safe, the 3 of you should work together. I will support you from the side with an array. The moment these words came out, the expressions of Yang Xiuya and the other 2 became solemn. Heaven-breaking, level 9 divine array masters were simply too rare. In the vast Hushu realm, apart from Huxley, Lin Yashin was the only heaven-breaking, level 9 divine array master. Now, another one appeared. Furthermore, he looked very young. His potential was much greater than Lin Yashin's. Yang Xiuya and the other 2 also finally understood why Lin Yashin wanted to capture him alive. Wasn't the goal to firmly control this kid? Humph. So what if you're a heaven-breaking, level 9 divine array master? In terms of actual combat, divine array masters are far inferior to cultivators. If I want to take him down, why would I need your help? The Black Wolf King didn't listen to Lin Yashin's suggestion at all. Its 4 hooves stomped on the air and turned into a streak of black lightning charging toward Zhuowen. Lin Yashin's expression was ugly. This Black Wolf King was seriously too unruly. Even if it was restrained by the summoning scroll, it simply turned a deaf ear to her words and did as it pleased. However, after thinking of the Black Wolf King's powerful strength, Lin Yashan's heart relaxed a little. He thought that the Black Wolf King should be able to take down Zhuowen. Roar! In the blink of an eye, the Black Wolf King's massive body appeared before Zhuowen's eyes. It was like a black bridge that spanned between heaven and earth, extremely visually impactful. Kid, since Old Man Lin has spoken, then I will be merciful and not kill you. I will only cripple your cultivation. You must remember to be grateful. The Black Wolf King looked down at Zhuowen. Its steel-like right claw suddenly slammed down, crushing down on Zhuowen's head. The Black Wolf King was too powerful. With a single swipe of its claw, heaven and earth changed color, the sun and moon dimmed, and the surrounding space shattered like glass. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. This Black Wolf King was indeed a half-step ancient star transformation expert. Its strength was much stronger than the middle-aged scholar and the others. Heaven and Earth Primordial Line. Chapter 4018. Rumble. The terrifying purple-gold sword Qi collided with the Black Wolf King's right claw. Then, under the Black Wolf King's shocked gaze, he was forced to retreat several thousand meters before he managed to stabilize himself. The terrifying sword Qi was dispersed by him, but his right claw was dripping with blood. He looked rather miserable. Zhuowen frowned. The primordial sliver of heaven was one of his most powerful divine abilities. Combined with the purple-gold divine sword, its power was terrifying. Yet it had only lightly injured the Black Wolf King. Yang Xiuya and the ancient demon of the void were dumbfounded. The two of them had fought the Black Wolf King before. They knew that the Black Wolf King was a peerless greater demon with an unparalleled physical body. It was said that he had cultivated to the point where he could withstand an attack from an early-stage ancient star transformation expert. When they had fought the Black Wolf King, the most troublesome thing had been the Black Wolf King's terrifying physical body. Now, the Black Wolf King's right claw had been injured by a mid-stage demonic transformation cultivator. This was inconceivable. You dare to injure me? The Black Wolf King clutched his injured right claw, his eyes bloodshot. He was the noble Black Wolf King, a peerless greater demon. Today, he had been injured by a human cultivator who was weaker than him. This was a great humiliation. I'm going to kill you. Zhuowen's expression was cold. Wielding the purple-gold divine sword, he took a step forward and appeared in front of the Black Wolf King. At the same time, he formed a seal with his left hand. With him, as the center, a square-shaped barrier appeared. Formation in one step. Lin Yashan could not help but exclaim when he saw that Zhuowen had only taken a step forward and an invisible, transparent array had formed around him. Moreover, it was a heaven-breaking Tier 9 trap formation. Yang Xiuya and the ancient demon of the void were also shocked. Although they weren't divine array masters, they still had some understanding of formations. Generally speaking, those who could form formations in one step were top-tier divine array masters. For example, Lin Yashan was a formation Dao divine master at the early stage of heaven-breaking stage 9. He could also set up a formation in one step, but he could only set up a formation below heaven-breaking stage 9. And if he wanted to set up a heaven-breaking rank 9 grand array, he would need at least several steps of time. Compared to Zhuowen's one-step formation, it was too far off. When Lin Yashan tried to break the formation, his face turned completely pale. This was because he discovered that Zhuowen's entrapment formation was actually a heaven-crushing Tier 9 intermediate spell formation. This formation was even more powerful than his own. He was well aware of what this meant. Zhuowen's array Dao level was at least above mid-stage shattering heaven Tier 9, and it might even be peak-shattering heaven Tier 9. Impossible. When he first came down from the formation pagoda, his formation Tao level was only around Heaven Breaker level 8. How could he have risen to the peak of Heaven Breaker level 9 in such a short time? Lin Yashin was almost incoherent. What Lin Yashin did not expect was that Zhuo Wen's comprehension ability far exceeded his imagination. In less than a month's time in the Formation Tao Imperial Book Pavilion, Zhuo Wen had completely advanced from heaven-crushing level 8 to the terrifying heaven-crushing level 9 in one go. Yang Xiuya and the ancient demon of the void also had ugly expressions. It seemed that this ordinary young man's array Tao level was actually so high. Lin Yashin, hurry up and break this entrapment formation. The Black Wolf King might not be able to deal with this person. The ancient demon of the void hurriedly said. The Black Wolf King's array Tao level was at the peak of heaven-breaking stage 9, coupled with Zhuowen's powerful strength. They were already starting to lose confidence in the Black Wolf King. Lin Yashin wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said, I'm breaking the formation. It will take a while. You guys wait. He could still break a mid-stage, heaven-breaking stage 9 grand array, but it would take a lot of time. While Lin Yashin was breaking the formation, Zhuowen was already fighting with the Black Wolf King. Brat, you're courting death. The Black Wolf King was furious. He didn't dare to be careless. He suddenly stood up like a human and transformed into his werewolf form. At the same time, a huge bronze hammer appeared in the Black Wolf King's hands. Boom! The Black Wolf King roared at the sky. He gripped the bronze hammer tightly with both hands and smashed it toward Zhuowen. A stage 6 astral soldier. Zhuowen could naturally tell that the bronze hammer's aura was definitely not weak. It was actually a stage 6 astral soldier. Moreover, during the process of fighting with the Black Wolf King, Zhuowen discovered that the energy used by the Black Wolf King wasn't the power of gods and demons. Instead, it was something even more powerful. Bang! The purple-gold divine sword and the bronze hammer fiercely collided. Instantly, sparks flew everywhere like dazzling fireworks. It was extremely dazzling and resplendent. Zhuowen groaned and involuntarily retreated dozens of steps. His expression became quite grave. The Black Wolf King, on the other hand, was as unmoving as a mountain. He looked at Zhuowen with a cold smile and said, Brat, that's all you've got. You're just relying on a stage 6 astral soldier. Watch how I destroy you today. As he said this, the Black Wolf King charged forward again. Meanwhile, a huge projection of a god and demon appeared behind him. The Black Wolf King released his god and demon, and his aura instantly soared by more than several times. Destroy me? Black Wolf King, the one who's truly courting death is you. Zhuowen shook his head. He no longer suppressed the god and demon in his body. Suddenly, a rolling purple energy pillar soared into the sky. A huge purple divine tree that seemed to connect heaven and earth appeared in the void behind Zhuowen. On the purple divine tree, there were many ripe purple fruits growing. Meanwhile, Zhuowen's aura also soared by hundreds and thousands of times, and it instantly overshadowed the Black Wolf King. In the instant that the Black Wolf King charged in front of Zhuowen, a purple fruit on the purple divine tree cracked, and a god and demon with 3 heads and 6 arms emerged from within. This god and demon's aura was too terrifying. As soon as it appeared, it sprinted through the air and charged toward the god and demon behind the Black Wolf King. Die! Zhuowen's eyes were cold. Several hundred divine sense sword intense suddenly slashed out from his glabella and rushed into the Black Wolf King's glabella. At the same time, he had already prepared several heaven-crushing Tier 9 slaughter formations, and they were instantly activated. Rolling, killing intent and terrifying energy ripples burst forth, completely engulfing the Black Wolf King. The Black Wolf King finally realized that something was wrong. The several heaven-crushing Tier 9 slaughter formations around him posed a huge threat to him. The Black Wolf King was very decisive. He immediately used his movement technique and planned to retreat first. However, right at this moment, several hundred divine, sense sword intents suddenly rushed into his glabella, causing him to falter. He was immediately enveloped by the surrounding slaughter formations. You actually know a divine sense mystic technique. The Black Wolf King was caught off guard, and his divine sense was immediately severely wounded by the divine sense sword intents. He spat out a mouthful of blood and glared at Zhuowen with shock and fury. Unfortunately, the slaughter formations had already been activated. He could only roar and passively defend himself against the terrifying slaughter formations around him. Is this the power of a half-step ancient star transformation cultivator? Too weak. Zhuowen shook his head and formed an incantation gesture, completely detonating the slaughter formations. The Black Wolf King howled in agony. His entire body was blasted beyond recognition. He struggled to escape from the explosion, but a streak of purple light quickly shot toward him. In the blink of an eye, this streak of purple light pierced through the Black Wolf King's glabella. The Black Wolf King's eyes were fixed on the slowly approaching figure in front of him. Even now, he still couldn't believe that he would die here at the hands of this young man. Who are you? Before the Black Wolf King died, it asked unwillingly. He was too arrogant. When he attacked Zhuowen, he didn't even ask for Zhuowen's name. Thus, he still didn't know who Zhuowen was. Chapter 40:19. Ka. Lin Yashin formed a seal with both hands and finally managed to break through Zhuowen's transparent barrier. But before he could rejoice, he discovered that there were even more powerful heaven-crushing Tier 9 arrays within the trap array. His face instantly became incomparably pale. He finally understood how big the gap between him and Zhuowen was. He'd finally managed to break through one array, but Lin Yashin had already set up multiple arrays. Given the speed at which Zhuowen was setting up arrays, he simply couldn't keep up. At that moment, the Black Wolf King's blood-curdling screams rang out from within the array. Lin Yashin was shocked to discover that the Black Wolf King had fallen from the sky and was no longer breathing. At the same time, the Black Wolf King's God-Fiend was also defeated by the three-headed, six-armed God-Fiend. Under their terrified gazes, the God-Fiend devoured the Black Wolf King's God-Fiend. Is this guy a monster? The Black Wolf King died, just like that. The ancient demon of the void was dumbfounded. He looked at Zhuowen with eyes full of fear. Even Yang Xiuya, who had always been very calm, had a trace of strangeness and fear surging in the depths of his calm eyes. Old man Lin, I can't help you today. I'll take my leave first. The ancient devil of the ancient void was already thinking of retreating. He cupped his fists at Lin Yashin and immediately fled. Ancient devil, you... Lin Yashin's expression changed drastically. He hadn't expected the ancient devil to flee so decisively. What was he going to do now? After all, it was the Lin family who had provoked Zhuowen first. Even if he knelt and begged for mercy, Zhuowen probably wouldn't forgive him. And now, he only had 3 half-step ancient star transformation experts to rely on. If they didn't even dare to face off against Zhuowen, how could the Lin family fight against Zhuowen? After Zhuowen killed the Black Wolf King and took his spirit ring, he discovered that the ancient devil had already fled. You want to run? You'd better stay. Zhuowen shook his head. He took out an array flag and threw it into the void. Immediately, an invisible barrier appeared in the surrounding area, as if there was a transparent piece of glass separating the area from the outside world. Of course, the toughness of this invisible barrier far exceeded that of glass. Bang! The ancient void demon, who had been fleeing, was immediately stopped by this invisible barrier. With an ugly expression, he turned around and coldly looked at Zhuowen in the sky above the Lin clan mountain range. He said in a deep voice, "Fellow Daoist, the grudge between you and the Lin clan has nothing to do with me. Why are you stopping me?" Zhuowen sneered and said, "Weren't you very cocky just now? He didn't even put me in his eyes. What's going on now? You don't even dare to make a move, and you want to run away like a stray dog?" The ancient devil of Taishu's face immediately darkened. He was a peerless great devil of his generation and was famous in the Hushu realm. When had he ever been humiliated like this? "Brat, you will pay for your rudeness." The ancient demon Taishu snorted coldly as a vast aura surged around him like a vast ocean. "Yang Shuya, this brat is not simple. Let's work together to kill him." The ancient devil of Taishu slowly walked to a spot not far from Lin Yashin and looked at Yang Shuya. When he saw the Black Wolf King die at the hands of Zhuowen, he knew that Zhuowen was extremely difficult to deal with. He had to work together with Yang Shuya to have a chance of victory. "Yes, I have the same intention." A terrifying aura surged from Yang Shuya's body. The battle intent in his eyes burned more and more fiercely like a ball of fire. Seeing that Yang Shuya and the ancient devil of Taishu had reached an agreement, Lin Yashin heaved a sigh of relief. Yang Shuya and the ancient devil of Taishu had always been at odds. He was worried that the two would not be willing to work together. Now that the Black Wolf King was dead, the two of them had joined forces. This was a blessing in disguise for Lin Yashin. With the strength of Yang Shuya and the ancient devil of Taishu, this Dao rune cannot be dealt with no matter how strong it is. This brat is too arrogant. He's dead for sure. Lin Yashin sneered. "Attack!" Yang Shuya hovered in the air. He stomped his right foot, and a rumbling sound came from beneath his feet. Immediately after, a terrifying cloud ring erupted from his feet. As for Yang Shuya, he was like an arrow that had left the bow as he shot out explosively. At the same time, he unleashed his own god fiend. Yang Shuya's godly demon was a martial divine cultivator wearing a large robe. Its entire body shone with a blazing golden light, as if it was plated with gold. The ancient devil of Taishu also released his godly demon. His godly demon was a large expanse of black fog. In the depths of the black fog, a pair of scarlet eyes erupted with a blazing red light. The two half-step ancient star transformations used all their strength to attack Zhuowen. They did not show any signs of holding back. Both Yang Shuya and the ancient devil of Taishu had extremely powerful rank 6 astral weapons. Yang Shuya's rank 6 astral weapon was a pair of silk gloves, while the ancient devil of Taishu's was a large blade burning with black flames. Martial divine fist. Yang Shuya's aura was too terrifying. He merged with his godly demon, and his strength soared to an extremely terrifying level. Then he punched out, and divine power poured out in torrents. The ancient devil of Taishu let out a piercing howl. He clasped his hands together and slashed out with his large blade. Instantly, terrifying black flames surged into the sky. Then, a terrifying blade of light broke through the black flames and slashed towards Zhuowen. The two attacks were too terrifying. When they were unleashed together, it was as if the entire sky would collapse. Lin Yashin watched this scene from afar. His face paled in fright, but his heart was wild with joy. In his opinion, with these two terrifying attacks combined, Zhuowen would be heavily injured even if he did not die. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He did not seem to see these two attacks. The purple divine tree floating behind him suddenly emitted a blazing purple divine light, forming a purple barrier around Zhuowen. Immediately after, the ancient devil of Taishu and Lin Yashan's attacks slammed into the purple barrier formed by the purple divine tree. Then, the ancient devil of Taishu and Yang Xiuya were shocked to find that their full-strength attacks were unable to break through the purple barrier. How is this possible? The ancient devil of Taishu and Yang Xiuya cried out in shock. Zhuowen's gaze also revealed a trace of strangeness. After this period of time, he had become somewhat familiar with his godly demon. However, this was the first time he had actually used it. The power of this godly demon was so strong that it made him feel terrified. The full-powered attacks of two half-step ancient star transformation experts had been easily blocked by the divine tree. With a thought from Zhuowen, the 4 purple fruits on the divine tree burst open, and 4 three-headed, 6-armed godly demons charged out. Roar. Chapter 40:20. How is this possible? Your god fiend can actually give birth to new god fiends. Yang Xiuya was truly shocked. Zhuowen's god fiend was simply too strange. Not only was it a very strange tree, but it could also give birth to new god fiends. This simply went against the principles of the god fiend transformation. However, Yang Xiuya and the ancient void demon didn't even have time to be shocked because the 2 three-headed, 6-armed god fiends had already arrived in front of them and unleashed terrifying attacks. So strong, Yang Xiuya and the ancient void demon were immediately suppressed by the 2 god fiends. They were both shocked and furious. Furthermore, the 2 of them were horrified to discover that these 2 god fiends were simply unkillable cockroaches. Their rank 6 astral weapons had shattered their limbs, but they could still rapidly regenerate and continue to fight to the death. Today, all of you will die. Zhuowen stepped on air and slowly walked through the void. 3 more purple fruits on the purple tree behind him cracked. The 3 three-headed, 6-armed god fiends roared as they charged at Yang Xiuya and the ancient void demon. Originally, the 2 of them were already exhausted from dealing with 2 god fiends. Now, there were 3 more god fiends. The pressure on them greatly increased, and they were all injured. They were in an extremely sorry state. Zhuowen didn't even look at Yang Xiuya and the other 2. He knew that with the 5 god fiends working together, Yang Xiuya and the ancient void demon wouldn't be able to last long. There was no need for him to do anything. His gaze landed on the dumbfounded Lin Yashan not far away. At this moment, Lin Yashan was truly dumbfounded. He was like an ice sculpture standing motionless on the spot. When he felt Zhuowen's gaze, his body trembled, and he collapsed to the ground in fright. Brother Daowen, I was blind and offended you. Please spare my life. Lin Yashan knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhuowen. Zhuowen walked in front of Lin Yashan and coldly looked down at him. He smiled faintly and said, Lin Yashan, you think too much of yourself. I came to the Lin family with sincerity. Unfortunately, you and the Lin family are too greedy. Now, it's time for you to pay the price for your greed. Zhuowen raised his finger and tapped on Lin Yashan's forehead. Lin Yashan was restrained by an invisible force of Array Dao. He could not move at all. He could only watch as Zhuowen's finger got closer and closer to his forehead. When Zhuowen withdrew his finger, Lin Yashan's eyes became empty and lifeless. Then he tilted his head and fell heavily to the ground. His soul had been completely destroyed by Zhuowen. When the upper echelons of the Lin family around the Lin mountain range saw Lin Yashan being killed by Zhuowen with a single finger, they all let out mournful wails. But more than that, he was afraid of Zhuowen. Even Yang Xiuya and the ancient devil Taishu, who were half-step ancient star transformation experts, were no match for him. If that person wanted to wipe out the entire Lin family, it would be a piece of cake. Bang, bang. At the same time, two figures fell to the ground in an extremely sorry state, smashing out two deep pits. When the upper echelons of the Lin family saw this, they all widened their eyes in horror. The two figures were none other than Yang Xiuya and the ancient devil Taishu. The two of them were heavily injured and lying in the pits, gasping for breath. Lin Longyao's face was pale, and his body trembled. He had not expected things to turn out like this. Plop! Lin Longyao suddenly knelt on the ground and bowed to Zhuowen. Lord Daowen, this is all my fault. If you want to kill someone, kill me. I beg you to let the Lin family off. The moment Lin Longyao knelt, Lin Danshan and the other upper echelons of the Lin family also knelt and kowtowed to Zhuowen. They begged for mercy. Zhuowen looked down coldly at Lin Longyao and said indifferently, Lin Longyao, I've already said that I have no enmity with your Lin family. I'm only here to borrow your Lin family's heaven-breaking 9-stage array Dao book. From beginning to end, I've always done things according to the rules. Unfortunately, the Lin family wants to kill me. Since you're willing to take the blame for the Lin family, then kill yourself in front of me. Lin Longyao slowly raised his head, his face drained of all color. Fine. As long as you let the Lin family go, I'm willing to kill myself. With that, Lin Longyao clasped his hands together and slammed them between his eyebrows. A terrifying power exploded, and Lin Longyao's divine soul was crushed by him. His eyes were lifeless, and he fell to the ground. Family head! The upper echelons of the Lin family cried out in grief. Where is Lin Danshan? Zhuowen spoke slowly, with a calm expression. Lin Longyao's death didn't affect him at all. This person had targeted him many times and even participated in the plan to kill him. Zhuowen would never tolerate enemies who wanted to kill him. Lin Danshan walked out trembling. He looked at Zhuowen in terror and said in a low voice, This lowly one is here. Lord Daowen, what are your orders? Where are the heavenly demon king and hybrid demon king locked up? Zhuowen asked coldly. They're locked up in the depths of the Lin family's dungeon. Lin Danshan said honestly. Zhuowen nodded and didn't say anything else. Instead, he walked up to the ancient demon of the void and Yang Xiuya and took their spirit rings without hesitation. Yang Xiuya was furious, but Zhuowen responded with a kick that made him spit out blood. Then, Zhuowen took the silk gloves off Yang Xiuya's hands without hesitation. Yang Xiuya was so angry that he almost fainted. The ancient demon of the void was very cooperative. He didn't dare to be presumptuous and obediently allowed Zhuowen to take his spirit ring and rank 6 astral weapon. Now, I'll give the two of you a chance. Submit to me and hand over your divine soul marks. Otherwise die. Zhuowen said indifferently, Who do you think you are? You want me to submit to you? What a joke. When I dominated the Hushu realm, you weren't even born yet. Yang Xiuya said, arrogantly, Then you've really lived like a dog all these years. You're still a defeated opponent. Since you're not willing to submit, then you can die. Zhuowen didn't hesitate at all. His right hand formed a sword and pointed at Yang Xiuya's forehead. You dare to kill me. Yang Xiuya was still in disbelief. He was killed so easily. Chapter 40:21. Master. The ancient demon of Taishu's face was ashen. He was a peerless great demon and had dominated the Hushu region for countless years. Now, he had become someone's servant. However, the ancient demon of Taishu did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. He stood respectfully beside Zhuowen, his eyes filled with fear and respect. The young man in front of him looked ordinary, and his cultivation was not as high as his, but he was so powerful that he feared him. He was completely convinced that Zhuowen was his master. Zhuowen nodded and slowly walked towards Lin Danshan. Lin Danshan hurriedly knelt on the ground and trembled. He did not dare to look up at Zhuowen. The rest of the Lin family members prostrated themselves on the ground and did not make a sound. Among the Lin family members, the one with the most complicated feelings was Lin Fuxin, the daughter of Lin Danshan. When Zhuowen first came to the Lin family, she had noticed Zhuowen. At first, she did not believe Zhuowen when he claimed to be the master of the Sky Devil Demon King and the Hybrid Demon King. She also did not believe Zhuowen when he claimed that he could pass the 100th level of the Formation Pagoda. However, Zhuowen did not refute. He used his actions to prove that he was right. The Sky Devil Demon King and the Hybrid Demon King revered him like a god. Zhuowen had even passed the 100th level of the Formation Pagoda, shocking the entire Lin family. Now, the guy she had thought was bragging had shocked the world and forced the entire Lin family to bow to him. Master, do you want me to help you destroy the Lin family? Before Zhuowen could speak, the ancient demon of Taishu whispered. His eyes flashed with hatred. If Lin Yashin had not summoned him, he would not have ended up like this. He would not have become Zhuowen's servant, and his life was in someone else's hands. Lin Danshan and the rest of the Lin family members were all trembling in fear. After losing Lin Yashin and Lin Longyao, the Lin family had completely fallen from a top faction to an ordinary one. It would be difficult for them to establish themselves in the Radiant Mist main region. With the ancient demon of Taishu's strength, he could destroy the entire Lin family by himself. Did I allow you to speak? Zhuowen coldly glanced at the ancient void demon. The latter's heart trembled, and he quickly lowered his head. Lin Danshan, if you can make the entire Lin clan submit to me, then you will be the new Lin clan leader. If anyone dares to disobey, kill without mercy. Zhuowen said coolly. Lin Danshan prostrated himself on the ground and said respectfully, I, Lin Danshan, am willing to serve you. The Lin family will not go against you anymore. The Lin family will belong to you from now on. The rest of the Lin family members also bowed their heads. No one dared to refuse. Bring me to your Lin clan's dungeon now. Zhuowen said calmly. Lin Danshan bowed and hurriedly led Zhuowen to the dungeon in the depths of the Lin family. He didn't dare to be negligent. The news of Lin Longyao and Lin Yashin's deaths spread throughout the Lin family in a short period of time. Everyone in the Lin family was shocked, although some of the Lin family members were dissatisfied. Under the bloody suppression of Lin Danshan's faction, the Lin family was as silent as cicadas in winter. They all acknowledged that Zhuowen was the true Lin clan leader. When Zhuowen was brought to the dungeon in the depths of the Lin family, he found that the Heavenly Devil Evil King and Hybrid Demon King were on the verge of death. Their bodies were bound by extremely powerful restrictions. Zhuowen's eyes grew colder. He waved his sleeve, and the restrictions on the two were instantly broken. Lin Danshan's eyes were filled with even more respect when he saw Zhuowen's move. The restrictions on the Sky Fiend King and the Hybrid Demon King had been personally set by Lin Yashin. Even a mid-stage, heaven-breaking, level 9 formation master would have to spend some effort to break them. However, Zhuowen had completely broken them with a wave of his sleeve. Without a doubt, Zhuowen's formation skills were far above Lin Yashin's. Originally, Lin Danshan was a bit dissatisfied that Zhuowen had become the Lin family leader. The Lin family wasn't a family of cultivators, but of formations. They didn't care much for cultivators and only respected powerful formation masters. Zhuowen's strength could only make the Lin family submit on the surface. But now, Shuo Wen's powerful array formation skills had completely convinced the Lin family clansmen behind him. Master, why are you here? The Sky Fiend King and the Hybrid Demon King struggled to their feet. They were shocked to see Zhuowen appear outside the dungeon. Master is here to save you. The Ancient Void Demon snorted. You're the Ancient Void Demon? Only then did Heavenly Demon Evil King and Hybrid Demon King notice the peerless demon behind Zhuowen. They immediately recognized the latter's identity and revealed a shocked expression. The Ancient Void Demon was a true almighty of the demon race. As a member of the demon race, the Sky Fiend King and the Hybrid Demon King naturally knew about the Ancient Void Demon. They even had deep respect and fear for the Ancient Void Demon. Master, it's just two little demons with impure bloodlines. It's beneath your dignity to take them as servants. The Ancient Void Demon King glanced at the Hybrid Demon King and the Sky Fiend King with disdain. The Sky Fiend King and the Hybrid Demon King were angry, but they didn't dare say anything. The Ancient Void Demon was right. The demon race was very particular about bloodlines. Compared to the Ancient Void Demon, their bloodlines were indeed inferior. Although the Sky Fiend King was also a half-step Ancient Star transformation, he was no match for the Ancient Void Demon. This was the difference in strength caused by the difference in bloodlines. Ancient Void Demon, are you the master or am I the master? Zhuowen turned around and looked at the Ancient Void Demon behind him with a faint smile. The Ancient Void Demon's expression changed, and he quickly lowered his head. Just as he was about to speak, he felt as if his head was about to explode. Master, spare me, spare me. This lowly one won't dare to speak again. The Ancient Demon of Void clutched his head and rolled on the ground in a wretched state. He screamed in pain and begged Zhuowen for mercy. His spiritual imprint was in Zhuowen's hands. If Zhuowen wanted to use it to punish the Ancient Void Demon, it would be too easy. The Sky Fiend King and the Hybrid Demon King weren't fools. They immediately saw that the Ancient Void Demon had been subdued by Zhuowen, as expected of Master. Even an existence like the Ancient Void Demon has been subdued by him. The Sky Fiend King and the Hybrid Demon King admired Zhuowen to the point of prostrating themselves on all fours. Zhuowen withdrew his divine sense, and the Ancient Void Demon's screams stopped. He struggled to stand up and obediently stood beside Zhuowen, not daring to speak anymore. Zhuowen ignored the Ancient Void Demon and said to Lin Danshan, Lin Danshan, take the two of them to recuperate for a while. I plan to stay in the Imperial Library for a while longer. If there's nothing else, it's best not to disturb me. After Zhuowen finished speaking, he took a step forward and disappeared. Chapter 4022. When Lin Yashin activated the array formations in the Lin Clan mountain range, Zhuowen had already set up a powerful defensive array formation in the Array Formation Imperial Book Pavilion. Therefore, although the battle in the Lin Clan mountain range was extremely terrifying, it was as if the heavens and earth were about to collapse. In the end, the Formation Dao Imperial Library survived without any damage. I'm really looking forward to the surprise that the item in the 10th district of the Imperial Library will bring me. Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly as he walked step by step into the Formation Dao Imperial Library. When Zhuowen entered the Formation Dao Imperial Library to cultivate in seclusion, what happened in the Lin Clan swept through the entire Radiant Mist main region like a storm. Even the major forces in the other main regions of the Radiant Mist main region heard about it, and were all shocked by the news, especially when they heard that Yang Xiya, the ancient devil Taishu, and the Black Wolf King, two of the three great half-step ancient star transformation experts, had died, and one of them had voluntarily surrendered. The three of them were the most powerful experts outside of the Hushu clan. Their reputations were not limited to the Radiant Mist main region. Many major forces in the main region would turn pale when they talked about the three experts. They were extremely fearful. But now, these three supreme powerhouses had all been killed. Moreover, the one who killed them was a young man who had never been heard of before. How could the crowd not be shocked? Soon after, many forces came to their senses and began guessing Zhuo Wen's true identity. When the news spread to the Radiant Mist main region, Long Duzi of the Longdo Shengzhen, Heavenly Star Saint Lord of the Heavenly Star Shengzhen, and Qinghuan Fairy of the Blue Phoenix Shengzhen immediately gathered for a meeting. In the end, the three of them decided to make Hanwu Shengzhen the #1 sect in the Radiant Mist main region. Moreover, the three sects also gave many precious resources and treasures as compensation to rope in Hanwu Shengzhen. The happiest person was none other than Hanwu Shengzhen's sect master, Gui Jing. He did not expect Zhuo Wen to cause such a huge commotion and become famous not long after he went to Minglan main region. During this period of time, he had been busy receiving the leaders of the major forces from the Liyuan main region. Moreover, some major forces from other main regions had also heard the news and came over to befriend Hanwu Shengzhen and used this opportunity to get acquainted with Zhuo Wen. Gui Jing silently looked at the endless stream of people in Hanwu Shengzhen. Her eyes were filled with surprise and complicated emotions. He knew that it was all because of Zhuo Wen that Hanwu Shengzhen had such a grand occasion today. Zhuo Wen, thank you. Gui Jing raised her head and looked in the direction of the Radiant Mist main region as she muttered softly. At the same time, the name of Zhuo Wen had also spread to Huxley's palace on the Sacred Mountain. Oh, a new guy called Dao Wen has risen in Minglan main region. Even Lin Yashin, Yang Shuya, and the Black Wolf King were killed by him. In a huge palace, a stalwart figure sat on the throne. In front of the throne, a trembling servant knelt there and answered hurriedly, "Yes, the news has just arrived. I came to report it immediately." The young man sitting on the throne had a handsome face. His feather robe shone with a sparkling and translucent light as if it was made of stars. His aura was very powerful, as deep as the ocean. His eyes were very bright, more dazzling than the stars. His skin was as flawless as jade. This person was Huxley's new King Valurium, Luke. Luke was a rising star in Huxley. He was once one of the three geniuses in Huxley. Later on, after he came back from the lower realm, his cultivation had suddenly skyrocketed at an incredible speed and reached a level that defied the natural order. He had surpassed the other two geniuses and finally became Huxley's 9th king, King Valurium. I once suffered a loss at the hands of the ancient devil of Taishu. I haven't settled the score yet. This ancient devil of Taishu is also very cunning. Ever since he knew that I had broken through to the ancient star transformation, he has been hiding everywhere. I can't find him at all. Now that I have shown my true self, it's time for me to settle the score. Luke's eyes became colder and colder. An icy aura suddenly erupted. The servant who was kneeling on the ground trembled when he came in contact with this aura. His face was pale and bloodless. "Help me arrange a teleportation array. I want to go to Minglan main region's Lin family." Luke slowly stood up. His eyes shone with an unbearable light as he said calmly, "Yes, my lord." The servant who was kneeling on the ground said in a low voice, and then slowly retreated. In the Imperial Library of Formations, in the 10th zone, Zhuo Wen sat cross-legged. In the air above his head, there was a ball of light surrounded by dense thunderbolts. At this moment, the ball of lightning was twisting violently as Zhuo Wen continuously formed hand seals. It was as if some invisible hand was trying to tear off the lightning on the surface of the ball of light. Zhuowen frowned slightly. The restriction within the ball of light was too powerful. Even though his formation Tao had reached the peak of the heaven-breaking stage 9, he still couldn't completely break the restriction. Zhuowen knew that the restriction above should have surpassed the heaven-breaking stage 9 level. If he hadn't discovered the flaw in the restriction in advance, he wouldn't have been confident that he could successfully break it. However, with this flaw, Zhuowen believed that as long as he was given enough time, he would definitely be able to smoothly break it. Time passed day by day. In the process of breaking the ball of light, Zhuowen's understanding of formation Tao deepened. Finally, on the 10th day, Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes. He formed hand seals with both hands and then put his palms together as if he was raising the sky. His palms faced the ball of light. At this moment, the ball of light that was constantly flickering with lightning seemed to have stopped in time. Then, traces of cracks appeared on the surface of the ball of light. Moreover, these cracks grew larger and larger until they covered the entire surface of the ball of light. Crack! In the end, the blue ball of light burst open. The ancient book that was wrapped inside also fell and was caught by Zhuowen's right hand. The cover of this ancient book was very simple. On the cover were the words, Heaven Mending Catalog. Zhuowen flipped open this ancient book. After silently skimming through a portion of the book, his expression suddenly became serious. Then he laughed loudly. It's actually a formation Tao ancient book that surpasses the heaven-breaking stage. I really didn't expect that a mere Lin family would have such a supreme formation Tao ancient book. Zhuowen was wild with joy. A formation Tao ancient book that surpassed the heaven-breaking stage. Even in the entire Hushu realm, it was probably very rare. Chapter 4023. It's a pity that the Heaven Mender catalog is incomplete. It's not the complete version. Zhuowen sighed softly. In the process of flipping through the Heaven Mender catalog, he discovered that it was incomplete, and very incomplete at that. Even with Zhuowen's heaven-defying perception, it would be difficult for him to gain more insights from the incomplete Heaven Mender catalog. Perhaps the primordial stone can deduce the contents of the Heaven Mender catalog. Zhuowen took out 2 stones enshrouded in purple light from the outside world. They were the Great Word Stone and the Great Word Stone. The 2 purple stones revolved around the Heaven Mender catalog continuously. The purple light spread out like a faint halo, completely enveloping the Heaven Mender catalog. Zhuowen discovered that as the purple stones revolved, cryptic and profound words emerged from the Heaven Mender catalog. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He discovered that these words were not the characters of the main body of the Heaven Mender catalog, but the remaining contents of the incomplete Heaven Mender catalog. Zhuowen was intoxicated by the new content that had been deduced, and his eyes revealed a look of enlightenment. While Zhuowen was studying the Skymender catalog, Valurium King Luke led 2 powerful cultivators into the transportation formation leading to Bright Mist's main region. "Greetings, King Valurium." When Luke walked out of the transportation formation in the Radiant Mist main region, the cultivator in charge of the transportation formation knelt beside the formation and said in a trembling voice, he was just a nobody in charge of the transportation formation in the Radiant Mist main region. The difference between him and an existence like King Valurium was too great. When he learned that King Valurium was going to be transported to the Radiant Mist main region, his heart was filled with fear. Luke glanced at the young cultivator indifferently and asked, "Do you know the specific address of the Lin family in the Radiant Mist main region?" "I know." The young cultivator braced himself and answered, "Good, then follow me to the Lin family. Lead the way." As Luke spoke, he waved his sleeve. Suddenly, a gust of wind whistled past. A majestic divine ship appeared in the sky. The young cultivator smiled bitterly. He didn't dare to refuse and could only follow Luke into the divine ship. The divine ship let out an earth-shattering roar. Then, it shot out toward the distant horizon. As for the other people in charge of the teleportation array and the cultivators coming and going, they were discussing animatedly. Their expressions were filled with bewilderment. "This is King Valurium, one of the new 9 kings of Huxley. Why would such a distinguished figure come to our bright mist overlord region? Didn't you hear what Valurium said? He probably wanted to go to the Lin clan for the Dao rune. After all, the Dao rune had caused a huge commotion in the Lin clan. Huxley is going to do something about it." A few days later, King Valurium's divine ship appeared in the sky above Lingyun City, where the Lin family resided. Countless cultivators in Lingyun City raised their heads to look at the sky. All of them had strange expressions on their faces. Lingyun City was one of the largest cities in the Radiant Mist main region. Most of the divine ships that came to Lingyun City would stop outside the city and put away the divine ships. Only then could the cultivators enter Lingyun City. Moreover, the sky above Lingyun City was set up with a great anti-flight formation. It was basically impossible for ordinary divine ships to fly directly above Lingyun City. Once they did, they would immediately fall and be destroyed. But now, this divine ship had ignored the anti-flight formation of Lingyun City. Everyone understood that the owner of this divine ship was probably not an ordinary person. Where is the person in charge of the Lin clan? My master, King Valurium, one of the 9 kings of Huxley, has personally come to Lingyun City. Quickly come out and greet him. On the deck of the divine ship, a middle-aged man beside, Luke walked to the bow of the ship. His voice was like thunder echoing inside and outside Lingyun City. It was so loud that it hurt the ears of many cultivators. Huxley's King Valurium. Heavens, why would such a great figure come to our Lingyun City? The dissatisfied cultivators of Lingyun City changed their expressions when they heard King Valurium's name. They lowered their heads, not daring to look at the divine ship in the sky. Huxley was the true ruler of the Huxley realm. He controlled everyone's fate. It was no exaggeration to say that if Huxley were to take action, almost no force in the Huxley realm could withstand Huxley's crushing power. Now, King Valurium, one of the 9 kings of Huxley, had come in person. Many people panicked. They did not know why King Valurium was here. Lin Danshan, who was handling affairs in the Lin family, changed his expression when he heard the voice. He quickly gathered the upper echelons of the Lin family and hurried to the center of Lingyun City. Demon King and Demon King also heard the commotion. They looked at each other and wanted to join in the fun. However, they were stopped by Ancient Demon Taishu. They saw that Ancient Demon Taishu's expression was very ugly. His body was faintly trembling. They were very confused. "Ancient Demon Taishu, what's wrong?" Demon King asked. Ancient Demon Taishu said, "Seriously, we must not go out. We need to hide immediately and completely conceal our aura." "What happened?" Demon King frowned and asked, "King Valurium and I have some grudges in the past. He suffered a great loss at my hands. I'm afraid that he has come for me. You can't go out. Otherwise, not only will I be in trouble, the 2 of you will also be in danger." Ancient Demon Taishu said. Ancient Demon Taishu said. Demon King and Demon King's expression changed. They did not expect Huxley's King Valurium to come for Ancient Demon Taishu. "Ancient Demon Taishu, why didn't you say so earlier? Now that he has come for you, you're telling us." Demon King said angrily. Because of Ancient Demon Taishu, they had provoked one of the 9 kings of Huxley. Demon King and Demon King were very angry. Ancient demon Taishu also felt that he was in the wrong and did not refute. Instead, he said calmly, "Now is not the time for us to fight among ourselves. The most important thing now is to hide. Although King Valurium is the weakest of the 9 kings of Huxley, he is just advanced. Ancient star transformation. He is very strong." Demon King and Demon King were very helpless. Although they knew that Juon would come for Huxley sooner or later, they did not expect to have a conflict with Huxley's people so early. Let's go to Lin Mountain Range. Master has set up several extremely powerful formations there. Moreover, Master himself is in the Imperial Library of Formation Dao in the mountain range. That is the safest place. Demon King suggested, "Can we go in?" Ancient Demon Taishu asked. "Before Master went into seclusion, he gave me a formation flag just in case. Now it can be used." Demon King took out a small black flag and said in a deep voice, Chapter 4024. Lin Danshan led a group of senior members of the Lin family. They stopped a few dozen meters away from the ship and bowed respectfully. The current head of the Lin family, Lin Danshan, greets Emperor Helksu. Lin Danshan bowed. He was curious. Huxley rarely cared about the affairs of the other overlords. Even the important people of Huxley rarely came to the other overlords. Now that Emperor Helksu had come to the Lin family in person, Lin Danshan was very confused. A ladder descended from the deck of the ship. A handsome young man in a feathered robe with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes slowly walked down the stairs while being escorted by 2 cultivators with powerful auras. 2 half-step ancient star transformation cultivators. Lin Danshan immediately noticed that the 2 cultivators on either side of the handsome young man were half-step ancient star transformation stage cultivators. The young man from the Yi family was surrounded by 2 cultivators, and his aura was as deep as a bottomless abyss, making it impossible to see through him. However, Lin Danshan knew that the young man in the feathered robe was the famous Emperor Helksu. He was a true elite of Huxley. Luke slowly walked in front of Lin Danshan. His beautiful eyes swept over Lin Danshan indifferently as he said casually, "You're called Lin Danshan, right? I heard that something happened to the Lin family recently. Is that true?" Lin Danshan was even more confused. The Lin family had never had any dealings with Emperor Helksu. Not only did Emperor Helksu come, but he also asked about the Lin family. However, Lin Danshan didn't dare to be negligent. He recounted everything that had happened, including the new master of the Lin family, Dao One. Luke frowned when he heard that. Luke knew that this guy called Dao One wasn't ordinary from what Lin Danshan had said. He was only at the mid-stage demonic transformation, but his battle prowess was terrifying. 3 half-step ancient star transformation cultivators and a heaven-breaking level 9 formation master were no match for him. Luke's eyes shone brightly when he heard that Dao One was a peak heaven-breaking level 9 formation master. Even Huxley didn't have a divine array master of this level. Huxley only had 2 heaven-breaking level 9 formation Dao divine masters, but one of them was only at the mid-stage of heaven-breaking level 9, and the other was at the late stage of heaven-breaking level 9. This is a talent. Once we deal with the ancient void demon, I'll have him join me. Huxley won't mistreat him. Luke said calmly. Lin Danshan hurriedly nodded and bowed. His heart was filled with ecstasy. The Lin family's ancestor, Lin Yashin, had a high level of array formation skills and had always wanted to join Huxley. Unfortunately, Huxley had not accepted. After all, Lin Yashin's array Dao level could only be considered to be at the bottom of the heaven-breaking Tier 9. His lifespan had also reached its end, so he didn't have much potential. However, Daowen was different. From Lin Danshan's words, Luke knew that Daowen was very young. He might not even be 10,000 years old. Such a young, heaven-breaking, level 9 formation Dao, Divine Master, was probably the only one in the entire Hushu realm. Luke naturally didn't plan to let go of such a genius. Patriarch Lin, I've come today to settle our past grudges. Before I became a king, I had a battle with the ancient void demon and suffered a great loss. I heard that the ancient void demon is still in your Lin family. Is that true? Luke asked in a forceful tone. Lin Danshan froze and felt his scalp go numb. He thought that Luke was really well informed. Then he remembered that the ancient void demon was Zhuowen's servant. If he handed the ancient void demon over without permission, he would suffer when Zhuowen came out of seclusion. After the battle at the Lin family, Zhuowen had completely established an imposing image of an invincible legend in Lin Danshan's heart. Even though he was facing King Hushu Valurium now, he was still filled with respect for Zhuowen. Is there a problem? Luke saw the hesitation in Lin Danshan's eyes, and his tone became heavier. He was slightly displeased. My lord, to be honest, the ancient void demon has already recognized Lord Dao Wen as his master. He's now Lord Dao Wen's servant. If you touch the ancient void demon, I'm afraid you'll anger Lord Dao Wen. Lin Danshan said softly. Luke sneered. What a joke. I'm one of the 9 kings of Huxley. I have the entire Huxley behind me. Do I need Dao Wen's permission to take someone down? I was able to invite him to join the Hushu clan because of his ancestors' help. Lin Danshan lowered his head deeply, not daring to refute Luke. After all, the latter had Huxley behind him. No matter how strong Zhuowen was, he was only one person. How could he compare to a colossus like Huxley? The ancient void demon is in the Lin family. My lord, just follow me to the Lin family. Lin Danshan smiled bitterly. Lead the way, Luke said proudly with his hands behind his back. The group entered the Lin family in a grandiose manner. Soon, Lin Danshan ordered someone to invite the ancient void demon. The report he received was that the ancient void demon was no longer in the Lin family. What? The ancient void demon, the Sky Fiend Demon King, and the Hybrid Demon King are all not in their residence. Lin Danshan frowned when he received the report in the Lin family's main hall. Luke, who was sitting in the main seat in the hall, was unmoved. He had a half-smile on his face. Patriarch, I saw the ancient void demon, and the other 2 leave the Lin family for the Lin family's mountain range. An elder suddenly said softly. Lin Danshan's eyes flashed. The ancient void demon had sensed Luke's arrival and had gone to seek refuge in advance. The Lin family's mountain range had become a forbidden area for the Lin family. That was where Zhuowen cultivated in seclusion. No one dared to barge in. Interesting. The Lin family's mountain range? Patriarch Lin, why aren't you taking me there? Luke said calmly. Lin Danshan hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and nodded. After all, Luke was one of the 9 kings of Huxley. He wasn't someone he could afford to offend. He didn't dare refuse his request. Lin Danshan had already decided that he would bear the consequences alone. He was prepared to die. As such, he was the only one who had brought Luke to the Lin family's mountain range. The rest of the Lin family had been ordered to stay in the Lin family's residence. They're here. In a basin in the Lin family's mountain range, the ancient void demon's expression was grave. The Sky Fiend Demon King and the Hybrid Demon King stood next to the ancient void demon. Their divine senses had also detected 4 figures in the distance. Of the 4, they only recognized Lin Danshan. The other 3 were unfamiliar to them. However, when they sensed the three's auras, they almost cried out in shock. 2 half-step ancient star transformation cultivators. The other's aura is even more obscure and powerful. Could he be Valurium King Hashu? Chapter 4025. That's right. He's King Valurium. He just broke through to the ancient star transformation and was conferred the title of king by Huxley. Ancient devil Taishu's body trembled, and his voice was filled with fear. The heavenly devil evil king and hybrid demon king's faces turned ugly. Gu Xing was much stronger than them. To put it bluntly, an ancient star transformation cultivator could kill a half-step ancient star transformation cultivator as easily as killing an ant. Luke stopped at the outskirts of the Lin mountain range. His 2 subordinates followed behind him respectfully. Lin Danshan stood at the side with his head lowered. His eyes were filled with fear and respect. Ancient devil Taishu, I've already found you. Are you still going to hide inside? Luke put his hands behind his back and spoke slowly. His voice was like a thunderclap that filled the Lin mountain range. It was majestic and domineering. As soon as Luke finished speaking, the Lin mountain range fell into silence. No one answered. Ancient devil Taishu, don't be so shameless. It's your honor that our King Valurium has personally come to greet you. Hurry up and come out and kneel before our king. A skinny old man beside Luke shouted with a displeased expression. Finally, there was a voice in the Lin mountain range. 3 figures appeared in the corridor of the mountain gate. The one in the lead was ancient devil Taishu. The ancient demon of Taishu stared fixedly at Luke. Valurium King, the battle between you and me was unavoidable. Apart from that, we have no other grievances. Why do you insist on holding on to me? Luke sneered. That battle back then was my humiliation. Now that I've learned enough, I'm going to wash away that humiliation. Ancient devil Taishu, I'll give you a chance. Come out now and I won't kill you. I'll only cripple your cultivation. Ancient devil Taishu's face darkened. Cripple his cultivation? What was the difference between that and killing him? King Valurium, I know you're not the same as before, but don't forget that there's always someone stronger. My master, Dao Wen, is definitely not weaker than you. In fact, he's even stronger than you. If you anger him, you'll be the one to suffer. The ancient devil of Taishu said in a low voice. Luke laughed loudly and said, Ancient void demon, you must be out of your mind. What was this Dao rune? How dare you compare yourself to me? If I wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. Luke's expression turned cold as he continued, Ancient void demon, my patience is limited. If you don't come out now, then don't blame me for capturing you personally. When that time comes, I'll kill you. Ancient demon Taishu didn't say anything else. Instead, he led Sky Devil Evil King and Hybrid Demon King back into the Lin Mountain Range. There was no doubt that he had made his intentions known by his actions. Good. Since that's the case, you better be prepared to be killed by me. Luke was so angry that he laughed instead. He took a step forward, and suddenly a vast aura burst out like the ocean. Lin Danshan, who was standing not far from Luke, fell to his knees with a thump. His face was filled with pain. The ancient star transformation's aura was too terrifying. Lin Danshan was suppressed to the point where he couldn't even stand. Boom! Luke took a step forward, and instantly, a terrifying mist exploded in the surrounding space. It was as if countless bombs had exploded, and the space seemed to have been torn into pieces. In the blink of an eye, Luke appeared in front of the Lin Mountain Range. An invisible barrier appeared in front of Luke, preventing him from moving forward. Heaven-breaking Tier 9 array? Luke narrowed his eyes. He finally knew why Ancient Void Demon was hiding in the Lin Mountain Range. It turned out that there was such a powerful array around the Lin mountain range. However, so what if it's a heaven-breaking Tier 9 array? Watch how I break it. Luke didn't care. His right fist burst out with a blazing golden light as he punched out. It was as if a resplendent sun had struck. With a rumbling explosion, the invisible barrier around them rippled violently. The surrounding space was also affected by this terrifying energy, and one terrifying black hole after another exploded in the space around them. In less than 3 breaths of time, the invisible barrier collapsed. It couldn't block Luke's attack at all. A heaven-breaking Tier 9 array is only SOSO. Luke sneered as he stepped into the mountain gate, but soon his expression changed because the hole in the invisible barrier that he had punched closed in an instant. In addition to that, terrifying killing intent appeared inside the formation. These murderous intents locked onto him. Then a terrifying energy burst out from all directions and engulfed him in the blink of an eye. Damn it, this isn't a simple heaven-breaking Tier 9 array. It's luring the enemy in. Luke immediately knew that he had been tricked. Without thinking, he used his strongest ability, the invulnerable glass body. Luke's aura surged again. His entire body flowed with the luster of glass. Bang, bang, bang. Terrifying attacks landed on Luke one after another. They all produced the sounds of metal colliding and extremely dense sparks. It was an extremely frightening sight. Luke was as immovable as a mountain. Although the attacks of the array were terrifying, they didn't affect his invulnerable glass body much. However, what made him frown was that after entering the array, the scenery around him had completely changed. It had become empty, and he had no sense of direction at all. He didn't know where to go to leave this great array. Oh no, King Valurium is in danger. The Lin Mountain Ranges array was set up by Lord Dao One. He's a peak, heaven-breaking Tier 9 divine formation master. Lin Danshan's expression changed drastically when he saw the ripples on both sides of the mountain gate close again after Luke entered. Don't worry, House Lord Lin. My master has already made preparations after knowing that Dao One might be a peak, heaven-breaking Tier 9 divine formation master. One of Luke's 2 subordinates, the white-haired elder, wasn't worried at all. Lin Danshan frowned. He was still a little worried. But since Luke's servant was so confident, his worries were a little unnecessary. At this moment, within the Lin Mountain Range, the ancient demon, the celestial demon king, and the hybrid demon king were standing at the edge of a mountain not far from the Imperial Library of Formations. They naturally noticed Luke, who had barged into the Lin Mountain Range. Luke is too confident. Our master has set up several powerful heaven-breaking Tier 9 arrays in the Lin Mountain Range. So what if he has the ancient star transformation? It's impossible for him to break through such a large array. The ancient demon said confidently. The celestial demon king and the hybrid demon king nodded. In their hearts, Zhuowen's existence was already deified. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, as soon as the ancient demon of the void finished speaking, cracks appeared on the surface of the array, as if it had been shattered by some extremely powerful force. Chapter 4026. This star was shining with golden light, and it was surrounded by a dense number of golden divine weapons as it took shape. An intense killing intent emanated from the golden star, causing the 3 to tremble and almost collapse to the ground. After the golden star charged out of the array, the crisp sound of footsteps could be heard. Luke, whose body was glowing with a glazed luster, slowly walked out. His eyes were bright and full of vigor, and they were filled with a brilliant light that was difficult to look at directly. In the palm of Luke's right hand, there was a dazzling golden disc array. The surface of the disc was surrounded by extremely mysterious runes. a trapping array, a defensive array, and a killing array. I have to say, this array is quite powerful. If an early ancient star transformation cultivator were to be trapped in this formation, there's a very high chance that they would be trapped to death, unable to get out at all. Unfortunately, before I came to the Lin family, I had already made preparations. Luke looked at the disc in his hand and continued, "This disc was created by two of Huxley's top divine array masters. It can detect the weak points of any heaven-breaking array." The three's expressions changed. They had not expected Luke to have already made preparations. As long as the weak points of the array were found, an ancient star transformation cultivator would be able to break the array with brute force. Luke slowly walked towards the mountain where the three ancient devils were. Above his head, the golden star shone brilliantly as it moved with Luke. This star was the will of an ancient star transformation cultivator. When an ancient star transformation cultivator transformed, all other stars could be summoned. Furthermore, the stars possessed by ancient star transformation cultivators were no ordinary stars. Instead, they were extremely powerful stars condensed by the ancient star transformation cultivators themselves. The ancient devil's expression darkened. He waved the array flag in his hand, and the array around the Imperial Array Library was activated. The Imperial Array Library was where Zhuowen went into seclusion. It was the most important forbidden area. Before Zhuowen went into seclusion, he had set up an array even stronger than the one in the Lin family mountain range. 9 different great arrays were activated, and then they intertwined to form a blazing and terrifying combination of great arrays. Luke frowned. He had not expected such a powerful array to exist in the depths of the Lin family mountain range. In truth, it was already difficult for him to break through the 3 arrays with brute force. He just did not show it. Now, 9 more arrays had appeared. They were many times stronger than the 3 arrays. He doubted whether he would be able to break through them. Of course, even if he managed to break it in the end, his vitality would be greatly damaged. Ancient Devil, I will give you one more chance. As long as you come out, we will settle our grudges. I will not kill you. I will only cripple your cultivation. This is the last chance I am giving you. If you don't cherish it, don't blame me for not giving you another chance. Luke, the ancient devil, the ancient demon of the ancient voids, eyes flashed. When he saw Luke easily break through the 3 combined arrays outside the Lin clan mountain range, he was already a little afraid. He subconsciously thought that Luke could also easily break the 9 combined grand arrays around the Imperial Library of Array Dao. Fine, I promise you. But first, this has nothing to do with Master Zhuowen. You are not to pursue this matter. The ancient devil of Taishu dejectedly agreed. The heavenly fiend king and hybrid demon king frowned. They wanted to persuade the ancient devil. However, the ancient devil had already made up his mind. It was useless. Luke's lips curled into a brilliant smile. Of course. I came to the Lin clan for you. Since you're willing to settle the grudge between us, I won't drag anyone else into this. The ancient devil coldly nodded. He handed the array disc to the heavenly fiend king and hybrid demon king. After they opened a gap in the array, he prepared to leave the mountain. Just as the gap in the formation opened, the golden star that had been floating nearby suddenly moved. The golden star was like a bolt of golden lightning. It suddenly shot over and smashed into the gap. The ancient devil, who had planned to leave, did not expect Luke to suddenly attack. He was hit by the golden star. He only had time to protect the important parts of his body with his energy. Pucci, the ancient devil, was sent flying. After smashing into several mountains behind him, he was embedded dozens of meters into the ground. And because of the Golden Star's attack, even the 9 combined great formations around the Imperial Library of Formations had almost collapsed, forming a huge gap that was almost impossible to fill. The Heavenly Fiend Evil King. And the Yimo King did not expect this to happen. Caught off guard, they were hit in the chest by the aftershock of the Golden Star. They were also seriously injured and fell not far away from the Imperial Book Pavilion. Whoosh! Luke took a step forward and appeared at the gap in the array. He picked up the array flag that the Heavenly Fiend King had dropped from the ground. Luke clenched his right hand, and the array flag was crushed by his power. Without the array flags, the array around the Array Dao Imperial Book Pavilion seemed to have lost its backbone and collapsed, disappearing without a trace. Luke, you are despicable. The ancient devil crawled out from the ground. When he saw this, his eyes were filled with rage. He roared at Luke with hatred. Despicable? The winner takes all. What's there to be despicable about? Luke sneered. Ancient Void Devil, you can go die now. After you die, reflect on yourself. Why did you provoke me? Otherwise, you wouldn't have ended up in such a pitiful state. Luke did not even look at the Heavenly Fiend King and Hybrid Demon King. He raised his right hand and pressed down in the direction of the ancient devil. Instantly, the Golden Star came crashing down towards the ancient Void Demon. The Golden Star was extremely dazzling. Wherever it passed, it would cause extremely terrifying destruction and shrieks. The ancient devil's face was pale. He struggled, but to no avail. His injuries were too severe. In the end, the ancient devil slowly closed his eyes. He knew that the only thing he could do now was to close his eyes and wait for death. After the array around the Lin mountain range was broken, Zhuowen, who was in the 10th zone of the Imperial Library, suddenly opened his eyes. There was a cold glint in his eyes. He said coldly, "How dare he break the combination array that I set up in the Lin mountain range?" However, there are even more powerful arrays around the Imperial Library. I don't need to worry about that. This person definitely won't be able to break in. But soon, Zhuowen stood up abruptly, because not long after, the 9 combined great arrays around the Formation Dao Imperial Book Pavilion were also broken. Zhuowen's face was extremely gloomy. He knew that he could not stand by and do nothing. Chapter 40:27. Luke floated in the air with his hands behind his back and a smug smile on his face. He knew very well that once the Golden Star landed on the Ancient Void Demon, the latter would die without a doubt. Ancient Void Demon, that's all you've got. You and I suffered greatly at your hands in the past and treated you as a great enemy. I've always wanted to take revenge on you. But now, I've advanced to the Ancient Star Transformation while you've remained stagnant. Right now, in my eyes, you're just an ant that I can casually crush to death. Luke's smile widened. His defeat at the hands of the Ancient Void Demon had left him with quite a bit of an inner demon. But now, once he killed the Ancient Void Demon with his own hands, his inner demon would completely vanish. His cultivation level would be completely stabilized, and his strength would increase. This was why Luke had come all the way from Huxley to the Lin family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to come personally. He could have just sent his subordinates to kill the Ancient Void Demon. Suddenly, Luke's expression changed drastically. The moment the Golden Star landed on the Ancient Void Demon, a majestic figure appeared like a ghost and blocked the Ancient Void Demon's path. The figure held the purple divine sword in his hand and slashed out fiercely. A majestic aura burst out from him. Primordial heaven and earth. The indifferent voice was like a clap of thunder, exploding through the entire space. Then a blazing purple sword ray shot up into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The purple sword ray was too powerful. It pierced through the heavens and earth, as if it could shatter the entire sky. The purple sword projection landed on the golden star, and an extremely terrifying explosion erupted. Then, the golden star, that was like a hot knife through butter, actually stopped for a breath of time. In that moment, the figure carried the ancient void demon, the heavenly fiend evil king, and the hybrid demon king, and left as if they had teleported. The moment the figure left, the golden star moved again. It fell down and smashed into the mountain peak. In an instant, the entire mountain was completely shattered, turning into countless pieces of gravel. The impact of the golden star was too terrifying. After shattering the mountain peak, an invisible shockwave spread out. Everywhere it passed, the mountains within thousands of miles crumbled and turned into ruins. Zhuo-Wen stood in the air and took out a formation flag. An invisible barrier surrounded him, blocking the shockwaves formed by the golden stars outside the barrier. The ancient void demon, the heavenly fiend evil king, and the hybrid demon king were supported by an invisible force within the barrier. They floated quietly as if they were defying gravity. "Master, thank you for saving our lives." The ancient void demon quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhuo-Wen. The ancient devil of the ancient void had thought that he was going to die for sure, but he had not expected Zhuo-Wen to pull him back from the Yellow Springs Road. His heart was filled with the joy of being reborn, and his gratitude towards Zhuo-Wen had reached the extreme. The heavenly fiend evil king and the hybrid demon king also struggled to get up and knelt to thank Zhuo-Wen for saving their lives. Zhuo-Wen only nodded. He looked at the ruins of the Lin clan mountain range, and his expression turned ugly. Fortunately, before he left the Array Dao Imperial Library, he had already used Array Dao techniques to refine the entire library to the size of his palm and put it into his great world. Otherwise, the Array Dao Imperial Library might have completely collapsed under the pressure of the golden star. Zhuo-Wen's gaze fell on Luke. He said coldly, "Who are you? Why did you barge into my place of seclusion and injure my people?" Luke waved his right hand, and the golden star returned to his side and continued to revolve around him. He looked at Zhuo-Wen and frowned, saying, "How is this possible? It's actually you." Zhuo-Wen was stunned. He looked at Luke's expression and felt a little puzzled. This was the first time he had seen this guy. Why did this guy look like he knew him? "Zhuo-Wen, it seems like you don't remember me. I really didn't expect that we would meet again in the 100 territories outside the realm. I also didn't expect that not only did you come from the lower realm to the 100 territories outside the realm, but your cultivation has also reached the fiend god transformation stage." Luke said indifferently. Zhuo-Wen's pupils shrank. His expression turned cold. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" "You must be the Dao when that Lin Danshan spoke of. It seems like your memory isn't good. Back then, you stole my primordial providence. At that time, you were just an ant in the lower realm." Luke sneered. "You're Luke." Zhuo-Wen's eyes narrowed. When the primordial providence was mentioned, he immediately thought of Luke. Back then, he worked with Su Yuan to go to the place where Pangu fell to find the primordial providence. Later, he was tricked by the young master behind Su Yuan. And the young master behind Su Yuan was Luke. Although he knew Luke, Luke didn't come to the lower realm back then. Instead, he used his divine soul to control Su Yuan to seize the primordial providence. In the end, Luke seized 1/3 of the primordial providence, and the rest was taken by Zhuo-Wen. At that time, Luke was still very unwilling. If it weren't for the restrictions placed on him by the lower realm back then, he would have gone to the lower realm to destroy Zhuo-Wen. "You finally recognize me. You're an ant from the lower realm, but your methods are extraordinary. You actually stopped the primordial providence back then. If it weren't for you, if I had obtained the complete primordial providence, my cultivation would be even higher." Luke's gaze became increasingly unfriendly as he looked at Zhuo-Wen. A trace of dense killing, intent shot out like a sharp sword. Humph. The primordial providence is the foundation of the starry sky. If you seize it all, the starry sky will collapse. Do you think I'll let you succeed? Back then, it was my fault that my cultivation wasn't enough. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to seize even 1/3 of the primordial providence. Zhuowen sneered. Luke's gaze grew colder and colder. Suddenly, he laughed and said, "The heavens have actually treated me well, to actually let me meet you again. I think you must have absorbed 2/3 of the primordial providence. Otherwise, a lowly ant from the lower realm, like you, wouldn't have been able to cultivate so quickly. As long as I capture you and refine the primordial providence from your body, my cultivation will rise again. Level up." At this point, Luke's eyes were filled with greed. He looked at Zhuowen as if he was looking at a delicious prey. "That depends on whether you have the ability to do so." Zhuowen sneered. At this moment, after the array of the Lin's mountain range was broken, Lin Danshan and Luke's 2 servants arrived at the Lin's mountain range. They also saw Zhuowen and Luke, who were confronting each other. "This is Dao Wen. He's only at the middle stage of the celestial demon transformation stage. He's really weak." The 2 servants also felt Zhuowen's aura and looked at him with disdain. Chapter 40:28. "I'm already an ancient star transformation expert." Luke said coolly, "What about you? You're just a celestial demon transformation. You should know better than me how big the gap between us is. If I want to crush you, it'll be easier than crushing an ant. Zhuowen, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and cripple your cultivation. I can promise you that when I refine you, I'll lessen your pain and let you die a quick death." Zhuowen shook his head. "You're too confident, Luke. We haven't even fought yet, and you think you can win? You think too highly of yourself." Zhuowen's eyes blazed with battle intent. Luke had just reached the ancient star transformation not long ago, after Zhuowen reached the celestial demon transformation. His strength had skyrocketed, and he hadn't used his full strength yet. He still didn't know what the limits of his strength were. And now, the battle with Luke would test the limits of his strength. Luke saw the battle intent in Zhuowen's eyes, and his face darkened. "You really don't know what's good for you. Since that's the case, I won't be polite with you. After I capture you, I won't let you die so easily." Luke's lips curled into a cruel smile as a terrifying aura burst out from his body. Luke's right foot stomped on the air and appeared in front of Zhuowen as if he had teleported. Then, he pressed down with his right hand. The golden star instantly expanded by dozens of times and ruthlessly fell towards Zhuowen. "Is this the ancient star transformation's natal lone star?" Zhuowen looked at the natal lone star solemnly. He knew that he couldn't hide his strength any longer. A mysterious purple light burst out from Zhuowen's body. The purple light grew bigger and bigger, more and more intense. In the end, the boundless purple light formed a gigantic purple divine tree in the void behind Zhuowen. This purple divine tree was too big. It was much bigger than the golden star, and its aura was no weaker than the golden star. Boom! The golden star landed on the purple divine tree, and an earth-shattering explosion instantly erupted. After that, Luke discovered to his surprise that the golden star that had always been successful was actually blocked by the purple divine tree. "This is your god, demon?" Luke was bewildered. He had never thought that a mere fiend god in the fiend god transformation would be able to block his natal star. Historically, this had never been possible, but now it was happening right in front of his eyes. Then, an even more shocking scene occurred. The purple fruits hanging on the branches of the purple tree cracked one after another. Tall fiend gods with terrifying auras appeared one after another. The birth of a new fiend god. Luke's pupils shrank. Zhuowen's god demons were too strange. It was strange enough that it was a purple god tree, but this purple god tree could give birth to a new god demon. This was not scientific at all. Roar, roar, roar. As soon as the fiend gods born from the purple fruit appeared, they rushed toward Luke in a hurry. Boom. The first to arrive was the three-headed, six-armed god demon. It threw a punch, and countless gusts of wind swept over, as if it wanted to tear the surrounding space into pieces. Luke coldly snorted and also threw out a punch. Blazing golden light erupted from his body, like rays of sunlight that scattered in all directions. When the two fists collided, an extremely terrifying, explosive sound instantly erupted. The demon god let out a wail and flew backwards. One of its arms exploded, and purple blood splattered in the air. It looked extremely mournful. Luke's brows furrowed slightly, and his body trembled involuntarily. The strength of this newly born fiend god was truly not to be underestimated. It almost made him take a step back. What made Luke's expression worse was that there were many of these god demons. They rushed toward him, one after another. "You're courting death." Luke's face darkened. He shouted and pulled out a golden saber that was half the length of a person. Luke's right hand danced, and the golden saber released a blazing golden saber light that soared into the sky. Immediately, the fiend gods charging at him were sliced in half by the streaks of saber light. Purple blood splattered across the sky, as if it was raining purple rain. But what made Luke's expression turn ugly was that there were too many of these god demons. Moreover, it seemed that they couldn't be killed. The gods that had been sliced in half by his saber rays quickly healed themselves and continued to charge at him. He also discovered that these god demons were not weak. They were at least half-step ancient star transformation cultivators. Coupled with their powerful self-healing abilities, they posed a great threat to him. After summoning the god demons, Zhuowen's strength increased by a large margin. He controlled the purple divine tree to block the golden star while he took a step forward and rushed toward Luke. Along the way, he quickly formed hand seals and began to set up powerful formation runes. When he arrived not far from Luke, he had already set up a powerful trap and kill formation. "Luke, of all the things you shouldn't have done, you shouldn't have provoked me." Zhuowen chuckled coldly. He flipped his right hand over, and an invisible barrier instantly appeared around Luke. This was the formation that Zhuowen had just set up. Luke wielded the saber in his right hand and violently slashed it through the air. Scorching golden saber light swept through the air like rain, and many of the god demons around him were blasted into countless pieces. Humph! The heaven-crushing 9-tier formation is useless against me. Zhuowen, don't waste your energy. Luke chuckled coldly. He pulled out a formation plate and found the eye of the formation. "Watch me break your formation." Luke soared into the sky and raised the saber above his head with both hands. He viciously slammed it into the eye of the formation. However, Luke quickly discovered, to his astonishment, that not only was the eye of the formation not destroyed, but it also surged with an even more terrifying power that crashed into his arms. Luke's arms were extremely numb, and he let out a muffled groan as he hurtled back in retreat. At the same time, the trap and kill formation around him exploded with terrifying killing intent. As Luke blocked these attacks, he said in disbelief, "How is this possible? I've clearly found the eye of the formation, so why can't I destroy it? This isn't a heaven-crushing 9-tier formation at all." Luke quickly discovered, to his horror, that the power of this trap and kill formation was who knows how many times stronger than the average heaven-crushing 9-tier formation. It actually made him somewhat exhausted. "You're right. This isn't a heaven-crushing 9-tier formation, but a formation that surpasses heaven-crushing 9-tier formation, infinitely close to the eternal grade. Zhuowen said calmly, above the heaven-crushing formation Tao was the eternal grade. Its power was equivalent to a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. He had studied the heaven-mending catalog for so many days, and it wasn't that he didn't gain anything. His formation Tao comprehension had already surpassed the heaven-crushing level. Although it hadn't reached the eternal grade, it was infinitely close to this level. Therefore, the formation he set up now was infinitely close to the eternal grade. Its power was far stronger than the average heaven-crushing 9-tier formation. What? Luke's expression changed drastically. He didn't expect Zhuowen's formation Tao level to have reached such a terrifying level. One had to know that in the entire Hushu realm for countless years, there had never been an eternal grade formation Tao master. Was Zhuowen going to become the first eternal grade formation Tao master in the history of the Hushu realm? So, Luke, you can die now. Zhuowen squeezed the void with his right hand. Instantly, the entire formation changed, and killing intent swept out like a tide. A wave of energy that could destroy heaven and earth roared like a tsunami, wanting to destroy everything in the formation. Chapter 40:29. Boom, boom, boom. A series of terrifying golden saber projections soared into the sky, slicing through the surging, killing intent of the formation. Luke's face was deathly pale. He was practically using his full power to defend against the attacks of the formation. However, just as Zhuowen had said, the power of this formation had already surpassed the heaven-crushing Tier 9. Even though he was a powerful being of the ancient star transformation stage and possessed a formation disk that could find the eye of the formation, there was nothing he could do. However, all of this was of no use. This grand formation had already exceeded the scope of his ability. No matter how he resisted, the final outcome would be death by this grand formation. Zhuowen, stop. I am the Valurium King. If you dare to kill me, then you'll have thoroughly offended Huxley. Luke said in a low voice. Zhuowen hovered outside the formation, silently watching Luke fend off the attacks of the formation. He sneered. So, what if you're from the Hushu clan? If you provoke me, Zhuowen, I'll destroy you all the same. Luke was both shocked and enraged. He didn't think that Mufeng would be so bold as to not fear Huxley at all. Mufeng ignored Luke. He knew that Luke would not be able to escape death if he was trapped in this formation. There was no need for him to do it himself. His gaze landed on the two servants that Luke had brought with him, not far away. How is this possible? Lord Luke, he's trapped? The two subordinates trembled in fear when they saw Luke in such a sorry state. In particular, they felt a chill run down their spines when they sensed the gaze that Zhuowen was shooting at them. Run! The two of them were very decisive. They immediately unleashed their movement techniques and fled toward the Lin mountain range. Even Luke was trapped. So how could they have the courage to face Zhuowen? Wouldn't that be courting death? Run? Do you think you can escape? A sinister smile appeared on Zhuowen's face. Then his right hand suddenly made a grabbing motion in the air. Two shrill cries of agony sounded in the air. Immediately afterward, not far from the gates of the Lin mountain range, two figures fell to the ground in a sorry state. Lin Danshan looked over and was horrified to find that their limbs had been torn off and blood was spilling out. They looked very miserable. "My lord, please spare our lives. We were only following Lord Luke's orders. We had no choice." The two servants fell to their knees and kowtowed to Zhuowen, begging for mercy. Zhuowen revealed a cold smile at the corners of his mouth. He naturally did not believe the words of these two people. If these two were allowed to leave, they would undoubtedly report back to Huxley. I only believe in the dead. Zhuowen waved his sleeve, and two terrifying purple stars shot out, piercing the glabella of the two servants. After casually killing Luke's two subordinates, Zhuowen's gaze fell on Lin Danshan. Lin Danshan's scalp went numb. He didn't even dare to look at Zhuowen. He immediately knelt on the ground. My lord, Corridor God, knows his mistake. I'm willing to take responsibility for this. You can kill me, but please don't drag the Lin family into this. Corridor God, Lin begged, as he lay on the ground, trembling. Don't worry. I won't touch the Lin family, and I won't kill you. However, I need you to hand over your soul imprint. Zhuowen said calmly. When Lin Danshan had first submitted to him, Zhuowen had not asked him to hand over his soul imprint. Lin Danshan did not hesitate to hand over the soul imprint deep within his glabella, take the ancient demon, and the other two back to the Lin family to recuperate. Zhuowen said calmly. Lin Danshan obeyed and left with the ancient demon, Demon King, and hybrid Demon King. Zhuowen's gaze returned to Luke, who was still trapped in the formation. At this moment, the formation's power was becoming more and more terrifying. The entire formation was a sea of destructive energy, attacking Luke from all directions. Luke's injuries continued to increase, and as time passed, his aura became weaker and weaker. Zhuowen knew that it wouldn't be long before Luke would completely perish inside the Grand Array. Luke clearly knew what was going to happen to him, and his eyes were filled with fear. Zhuowen, let's talk things over. As long as you let me go, I can give you anything. Luke said loudly. He was a peerless genius of Huxley, and he had just become King Huxley not long ago. He did not want to die like this. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth revealed a faint smile as he said, My request is very simple. Submit to me and become my slave. Then you can live. Originally, Zhuowen had planned to kill Luke directly. However, when he thought of Luke's identity, and if Luke was Huxley's spy, his chances of rescuing Shan Lingyun would be very high. Luke's face darkened as he said in a low voice, Zhuowen, don't go overboard. I'm one of the 9 kings of Huxley, and you want me to submit to you and become your slave? Zhuowen grinned and said, Since you're not willing, you'd better die. As he said that, Zhuowen formed a seal, and the power of the trap and kill formation increased significantly. Luke spat out a mouthful of blood, and it became increasingly difficult for him to resist the attacks of the trap and kill formation. Even the golden stars around him became dim. Moreover, the surface of the golden stars became bumpy, which was caused by the trap and kill formation's attacks. Splat! Suddenly, before Luke could react, a terrifying attack pierced through his right shoulder. Fresh blood spurted out, and Luke's right arm broke, exploding into a cloud of blood. Then it was his left arm, right leg, and left leg. Boom! Another attack pierced through Luke's chest and nailed him to the ground. Luke spat out a mouthful of blood, and his consciousness became blurry. His entire body was trembling violently. The golden stars fell, and the golden sword broke. Luke was already at the end of his rope. Zhuowen, I promise you I'll submit to you. Don't kill me. Luke fell to the ground and looked at the countless attacks in the sky, which swept toward him like a torrential rain. He was completely terrified, and he screamed, completely submitting. Strangely, as soon as Luke said that, the torrential rain of attacks stopped completely, as if time had stopped. Then, the invisible barrier around them gradually disappeared, and a figure slowly walked over. Luke, hand over your spiritual mark. Zhuowen looked down at Luke, whose limbs were broken, and said calmly. Luke smiled bitterly. After so many years of cultivation, he knew that the winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. He handed over his spiritual mark without hesitation. After Zhuowen put away his spiritual mark, he threw a bottle of healing pills to Luke, allowing him to heal himself. Luke did not stand on ceremony. He used his qi to open the bottle of healing pills and began to consume them one by one to heal himself. About an hour later, Luke's limbs had regenerated, and his injuries had also healed somewhat. At the very least, he could walk normally now. "Master!" Luke hurried to Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged on a rock not far away, and bowed respectfully to Zhuowen. However, his gaze was very complicated. When he first met Zhuowen in the starry sky, the latter was still an ant that he could easily destroy. Chapter 40-30. Let's go. Follow me back to the Lin family. Zhuowen opened his eyes. His gaze was as calm as an ancient well, as if Luke becoming his servant was a trivial matter. When Zhuowen brought Luke back to the Lin family, he found that everyone from the Lin family was gathered in the Lin family's courtyard, kneeling on the ground. The ones at the front were Lin Danshin and Lin Fuxin. When Lin Danshin and Lin Fuxin saw Zhuowen bring Luke back, they kowtowed to Zhuowen and begged for forgiveness, especially when they saw Valurium King Luke respectfully following behind Zhuowen. Their respect for Zhuowen grew. "There's no need to make it so grand. Disperse. I won't do anything to the Lin family. Don't worry." Zhuowen waved his hand. Only then did the Lin family members leave in relief. They were all deeply grateful to Zhuowen. Lin Danshin and Lin Fuxin hurried to Zhuowen's side. They stood with their hands by their sides, looking as if they were at his beck and call. "Lord Dawen, that." "Lord Luke." Lin Fu's big eyes glanced at Luke, who was following behind Zhuo, when without saying a word. Then she said to Zhuo, when hesitantly, "I'm already your servant," Luke said in a low voice. Lin Danshin and Lin Fuxin's eyes were about to pop out. Although they had already guessed it when Zhuowen and Luke had entered the Lin family, they had already guessed it. But now, after Luke said those words himself, the two of them were still deeply shocked. Luke was Valurium King, one of the 9 kings of Huxley. His status was not something that the ancient void demons could compare to. Even such a big shot had submitted to Zhuowen. Lin Danshin and Lin Fuxin were even more impressed with Zhuowen. After settling Luke down, Zhuowen continued to enter the Imperial Library of Arrays to study the heaven-patching catalog in seclusion. At the same time, he used the immemorial primordial stone to fuse the rank 6 astral weapons into the purple-gold divine sword. This caused the purple-gold divine sword's grade to increase. He had spent several months in seclusion this time. He knew very well that when he came out of seclusion, it would be time for him to go to Huxley. Once he rescued Shan Lingyun, he planned to leave the Hushu region and look for Moyan Wushang. Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. On this day, the door of Zhuowen's house was pushed open from the inside, and a black-clothed youth walked out. The black-clothed youth was none other than Zhuowen. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes revealed an indescribable confidence. Every move he made seemed to be one with the heavens and the earth. The heaven-mending catalog is truly miraculous. Even though it's only a remnant, it has benefited me greatly, Zhuowen muttered to himself. His right hand suddenly reached out into the air. Instantly, the winds and clouds above the Lin family changed. Boom, boom. Countless dark clouds gathered in the sky, forming a spectacle of dark clouds that stretched for thousands of miles. In the depths of the dark clouds, extremely powerful and fierce blue lightning flashed. Violent winds accompanied the fierce rain, wreaking havoc in the sky. Within the Lin family's territory, all the living beings could not help but raise their heads, looking at the terrifying phenomenon in the sky with frightened eyes. What's going on? Why is there such a phenomenon in the sky above our Lin family? Lin Danshan led a group of Lin family members out. Their expressions changed drastically when they saw the terrifying dark clouds in the sky. Luke, the ancient demon of the void, the heavenly demon evil king, and the hybrid demon king also walked out of their respective residences, looking at the sky with serious expressions. Nature of all things. Suddenly, a deafening voice came from the depths of the dark clouds, as if some god was squatting in the depths of the dark clouds, whispering faintly. Immediately after, a terrifying vortex suddenly formed in the center of the dark clouds, and it cracked open. In the depths of the vortex, an incomparably huge black hand slowly stretched out, slapping toward the Lin family. This hand was too big, and it covered the Lin family and the surrounding Lin family mountain range. The terrifying pressure crushed down, and the Lin family members could not help but kneel on the ground, their expressions pained. Even the ancient demon of the void, and the others were forced to kneel on both knees. The only one who was better off was Luke. However, even Luke was kneeling on one knee, his entire body trembling. Why? Does the heavens want to destroy our Lin family? Lin Danshan's face was pale. He roared at the sky, unwilling to give up. But no matter how much he roared, the giant hand that seemed to be able to destroy everything did not stop at all. It continued to fall in an orderly manner. Just as everyone was on the verge of despair, the giant hand suddenly stopped about 10 feet from the ground. Then, to everyone's surprise, a figure was rising up into the sky from within the Lin family. It's Lord Dawen, Master. Everyone from the Lin family, Luke, and the others all stared at the figure. They were all extremely excited. There was no doubt that Zhuowen was their last savior. Zhuowen took the last step and landed on the back of the giant hand. He put his hands behind his back and looked down at the Lin family members. Everyone, don't panic. This is the power of formation that I've comprehended. It's just the result of an experiment, Zhuowen said calmly. As soon as he said that, everyone was in an uproar. It was the first time they had seen such a terrifying formation technique. Could it be that Zhuowen's formation skills had surpassed the Heaven Breaker level? 10,000 nature? Was this the legendary realm of the eternal level divine array master? My lord, are you already an eternal level formation master? Lin Danshan asked in shock. The Lin family was even more in an uproar. An eternal level formation master was an existence that only existed in legends, in their eyes. The Hushu realm had never produced such a great formation master. Luke's expression was even more complicated, and his heart was full of disappointment. He wanted to wait until his cultivation level was higher so that he could escape from Zhuowen's control. However, Zhuowen was too fast, so fast that it terrified him. He wondered if he could really escape from Zhuowen's control. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "The eternal level is too difficult. Strictly speaking, I should be at the half-step eternal level now." Lin Danshan and the others were shocked. Such a world-shaking array, Tao technique, was only at the half-step eternal level. Then, how powerful would a true eternal level formation master be? Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, the giant hand under Zhuowen's feet collapsed, followed by thousands of miles of dark clouds. The sky returned to normal, and the warm sun shone down, illuminating the Lin family's territory. It was as if the hellish scene just now was just an illusion. Zhuowen slowly landed in front of Luke and said calmly, "Luke, get ready. We should go to Huxley." Chapter 40:31. The next day, the first ray of warm sunlight shone down. In the Lin family, the door to a luxurious courtyard was pushed open, and a slender figure walked out. This was a rather handsome young man. His black robes fluttered faintly under the gentle breeze. He was none other than Zhuowen. Whoosh, whoosh. Whoosh! At the same time, four figures appeared from the dark corners of the courtyard and knelt at Zhuowen's feet. "Greetings, master." Zhuowen looked at the four people kneeling on the ground and nodded. "It's time to go to Huxley. Luke, you lead the way." Luke, who was kneeling in front of Zhuowen, quickly agreed. He stood up and waved his sleeve, and a luxurious divine ship appeared in the sky. "Master, please board the ship." Luke said respectfully. Zhuowen nodded and led the heavenly devil evil king, hybrid demon king, and ancient devil void onto the deck. After the four of them stood still, Luke started the divine ship. With a whoosh, the divine ship shot out like an arrow. It was so fast that it disappeared in the blink of an eye. On the way to Huxley, Zhuowen asked Luke many questions about Huxley. After a series of questions, Zhuowen understood a lot about Huxley. Huxley indeed had many experts, and the most famous were the one leader, 3 protectors, and 9 kings. The one leader was the leader of Huxley's tribe, Lu Renjue. He was also the strongest person in Huxley. According to Luke, Lu Renjue's strength had reached an unfathomable level. 10,000 years ago, his cultivation had reached the late ancient star transformation. After 10,000 years, Lu Renjue's strength had probably reached an even more terrifying level. As for how strong he was now, most of the people in Huxley did not know. As for the 3 protectors, they were the 3 strongest protectors of the Hushu clan. Their strength was at least at the mid-stage ancient star transformation realm, and they were far stronger than the average mid-stage ancient star transformation realm cultivator. The 9 kings were Huxley's 3rd level of power, second only to the tribe leader and enforcers. Most of them were at the early ancient star transformation stage. Of course, God Thunder King was the strongest of the 9 kings. He was at the mid-ancient star transformation and was qualified to become a protector. Luke, on the other hand, was the weakest of the 9 kings, King Valurium. After all, he had only just been conferred the title of king and had reached the ancient star transformation not too long ago. However, Luke had great potential because he was the youngest among the 9 kings. As long as he was given enough time, he would definitely be one of the best among the 9 kings. Zhuowen's eyes flashed as he fell into deep thought. With his current strength, he could at most fight an early-stage ancient star transformation expert. If he encountered a mid-stage ancient star transformation expert, he might not be a match for him. However, if he could fuse all of his grade 6 astral weapons into the violet gold divine sword and transform it into a grade 7 astral weapon, then his strength would reach an even higher level, and he would be able to fight against a mid-stage ancient star transformation stage cultivator. In addition, he had already reached the half-step eternal level of Array Dao. Even a late-stage ancient star transformation expert wouldn't be able to defeat him easily. With Zhuowen's current strength and trump cards, as long as he didn't clash head-on with Huxley, it wouldn't be too much of a problem for him to save one person. Moreover, he now had Luke as a spy, so the difficulty of saving Shan Lingyun would be much lower. "Master, you want to save Shan Lingyun?" Luke suddenly looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. "Why? Is there a problem?" Zhuowen asked with a frown. "There is a problem, and it's a big problem. Do you know Shan Lingyun's true identity?" Luke asked in a low voice. "I know. I heard that she is the illegitimate daughter of Huxley's leader, Lu Renjue." Zhuowen said in a low voice. "Shan Lingyun isn't just Lu Renjue's illegitimate daughter. Lu Renjue once had a woman he loved the most. That woman is Shan Lingyun's mother. However, she died in an accident when she gave birth to Shan Lingyun. This became a knot in Lu Renjue's heart. Therefore, Lu Renjue definitely hates this illegitimate daughter of his and can't wait to kill her. This time, Shan Lingyun was captured again. because she is a spiritual master of speech with an extremely high cultivation, and she has some value. Lu Renjue didn't kill her immediately. However, he imprisoned her in Huxley's most dangerous and terrifying forbidden area, Ghost King Ridge. Luke explained patiently to Zhuowen, especially when he mentioned the Ghost King Ridge. His face was filled with fear. What kind of place is the Ghost King Ridge? Zhuowen asked with a frown. The fear in Luke's eyes became more and more intense. He replied, "The Ghost King Ridge is an extremely evil place. It is a heaven for evil spirits and hell for cultivators." "Master, I wonder if you know about ghosts." Zhuowen frowned slightly and shook his head. He had indeed never heard of ghosts. Could it be related to evil spirits? Ghosts are a higher-level existence than evil spirits. You also know that evil spirits are formless. However, ghosts can transform to a certain extent. They are much more threatening than evil spirits. Within the Ghost King Ridge, there is a group of terrifying ghosts. These ghosts are much more threatening than evil spirits. In addition, it is said that there is a Ghost King sealed within the Ghost King Ridge. It is said that the Ghost King was sealed in the Ghost King Ridge by an extremely powerful ancestor of the Hushu clan. The successive generations of clan leaders of the Hushu clan would often seal the Ghost King and seal it completely. As for the cultivators imprisoned in the Ghost King Ridge, they would be eroded by the terrifying cold air of the Ghost King Ridge all year round. Their minds would be easily disturbed, and they would go crazy. Such examples can be found everywhere in the history of Huxley. Luke smiled bitterly. His eyes were still filled with fear. It was obvious that he was extremely afraid and fearful of the Ghost King Ridge. Zhuowen's face gradually turned cold. He really did not expect Lu Renjue to be so cruel as to imprison Shan Lingyun in such an extremely evil place like the Ghost King Ridge. Although he had never seen the Ghost King Ridge, from Luke's description, he could see that the Ghost King Ridge was a truly dangerous place. It was a notorious place in Huxley. In addition, Shan Lingyun had already suffered serious internal injuries. He was afraid that she would not be able to hold on for long in the Ghost King Ridge. "How can I enter the Ghost King Ridge faster?" Zhuowen asked coldly. Luke shook his head and said, "The Ghost King Ridge is a forbidden place in Huxley. It is heavily guarded all year round. Master, if you want to force your way in, I think you should give up this idea. It is impossible." Chapter 4032. Is there any other way? Zhuowen looked at Luke coldly. A cold, murderous intent was emitted from his eyes. Luke's expression changed slightly. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead. He could feel Zhuowen's murderous intent. If he could not give an effective suggestion, he would be killed by Zhuowen. Yes, there is another way. In half a month, Huxley's Ghost King Ridge will be opened. When the Ghost King Ridge is open, the younger generation of Huxley will have the chance to enter the Ghost King Ridge to train. Master, as long as you join Huxley and become Huxley's disciple before the Ghost King Ridge opens, you will have the chance to enter the Ghost King Ridge. Luke said carefully. Hearing this, Zhuowen was deep in thought. His strength had indeed increased a lot recently. However, he was still a human. It was still difficult for him to fight against the ruler of the Hushu region alone. Moreover, he did not have much enmity with Huxley. His main goal was to save Shan Lingyun. Since there was a way that did not require a direct confrontation with Huxley, Zhuowen naturally would not be so foolish as to fight against the entire Huxley alone. "All right, Luke, I'll leave the rest to you." Zhuowen nodded. Luke heaved a sigh of relief. What he was most afraid of was that Zhuowen would act like a hothead and rush up to fight alone. Not to mention that he did not believe in Zhuowen's strength. If Zhuowen really fought against Huxley, he would not be able to absolve himself from the blame. When that time came, he would also die without a burial place. Now that Zhuowen had used his method, it was naturally the best choice for him. This would also reduce the chances of him being exposed. He would also be able to find a way to deal with unexpected situations more easily. The journey for the next few days was basically arranged by Luke. First, they took the divine ship to the teleportation temple in the Minglan region. They used the teleportation temple to teleport directly to the region where Huxley was. There were many overlords in the Huxley realm, but Huxley did not exist in any of them. Huxley was located on a gigantic floating continent called the Divine City of Hushu. This floating continent was located several 100 million kilometers above the Hex realm. The surface of the city was covered in powerful formations and restrictions, each of which was basically a ninth-grade formation. It could be said that the Divine City possessed the strongest defensive power among the countless cities in the Hushu realm. It was also the most mysterious city. The Divine City of Hushu floated in the skies of the Hushu realm for many years, and it was constantly on the move. Its whereabouts were extremely secretive. If not for Huxley's men, no one else would have been able to find the way into the city. After witnessing the complicated route to Hushu City, the ancient Void Fiend, Celestial King, and Alien Demon King were utterly impressed by Zhuowen. If not for Zhuowen's foresight in sparing Luke's life and subduing him, who knew how long it would have taken them to find the Divine City of Hushu? After leaving the Minglan region, Luke brought them to a mysterious region of space. The divine ship he steered landed on an inconspicuous meteorite in the void. He took out a formation flag and inserted it into a crack in the center of the meteorite. Instantly, the meteorite began to tremble violently, and the craters on the meteorite's surface erupted with blazing red light. Then, the meteorite's surface temperature began to rise rapidly. Zhuowen and the others were shocked to discover that the meteorite had begun to melt into magma. This red sea of magma quickly enveloped Zhuowen and the others. "Luke, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill us?" The ancient Void Fiend's expression darkened. He immediately took out his life-bound divine weapon and glared at Luke, who was still making hand seals. Luke coldly glanced at the ancient Void Fiend and said, "What an ignorant fool! This is the passage Huxley used to enter. If you don't understand, don't speak." "You." The ancient Void Fiend was furious. Zhuowen raised a hand and stopped the ancient Void Fiend. "I know the two of you are old enemies, but since you've both become my subordinates, then let's get along well. Don't force me to use divine soul sanctions on the two of you." When they heard divine soul sanctions, the ancient Void Fiend and Luke's expressions changed drastically. They both agreed to stop arguing. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the river of magma exploded violently. Then, everyone felt the world spin around them. A teleportation array. Zhuowen's lips curved into a smile. No wonder Hushu City was so mysterious. Even Huxley's own clansmen had to go through so many complicated steps to enter the city, let alone others who didn't know the steps at all. When Zhuowen and the others recovered from their dizziness, they saw a boundless black grassland in front of them. The entire grassland was shrouded in a strange black mist. This black grassland was very strange because the black grass here wasn't ordinary grass. Zhuowen squatted down and plucked a stalk of grass. He discovered that there was a thumb-sized black skull growing at the tip. The black skull's upper and lower jaws opened and closed rapidly, spitting out a strange black mist. "Master, this is evil grass. They can spit out a terrifying poisonous mist. Quickly throw it away." When Luke saw Zhuowen pick up a stalk of black grass, his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly warned him. Zhuowen's expression was calm. He casually squeezed, and the stalk of black grass was crushed into powder. He cultivated the primordial technique, the most powerful technique in the entire 100 domains. The instant he breathed in the poisonous gas released by the little black grass, it was neutralized by his vast grand mist god force. The ancient void demon, fiend celestial king, and hybrid demon king hurriedly used their divine power to seal off their acupoints to prevent the poisonous mist from attacking them. Luke, on the other hand, was completely unaffected by the poisonous mist. Master, you're fine? Luke looked at Zhuowen in shock. The reason he wasn't affected was that the Huxley's clansmen had been consuming poison-resistant herbs since they were young. As a result, all of them were highly resistant to poison. The poisonous mist in the evil grassland was terrifying. Even ancient star transformation experts would be affected by it if they weren't prepared. They would be paralyzed, unable to move, and their lives would be in danger. Zhuowen smiled faintly. He didn't explain. This was his own secret, and he naturally couldn't reveal it to Luke and the others. Chapter 40:33. Zhuowen and the others traversed the black grasslands, the poisonous swamps, and the barren hills and unruly rivers. Needless to say, the lesser world where Hushu City was located was filled with terrifying dangers and traps. There were many traps that even ancient star transformation experts would die if they fell into them. Actually, we're already in the vicinity of Hushu City. These danger zones were all set up around the city by the ancestors of the Hushu clan. If it weren't for Huxley's people, they wouldn't even know the way to the heart of the city. As Luke led the way, he explained the origins of the danger zones around Hushu City to Zhuowen and the others. The ancient void demon, the celestial fiend king, and the hybrid demon king's hearts raced as they followed Luke. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Whether it was the black grasslands, the poisonous swamps, or the other danger zones, they were all hopeless. If Luke hadn't led them, they would have been trapped in these danger zones and perished. When they walked out of a dense forest shrouded in black clouds, they saw a giant floating city in front of them. The city was shaped like a tower spiraling upward. There were a total of 100 floors, each of which was extremely vast. It was like a lesser world. Master, that's Hushu City, Luke said respectfully to Zhuowen in a deep voice. Zhuowen gazed into the distance, silently observing the 100-story city. His expression grew more and more serious. Others might not have been able to see the profundity of the city, but his formation skills had reached the half-step eternal level. He could see at a glance that the city was surrounded by extremely complex formation laws. These laws intertwined to form an even more complex formation. Each of the array Dao laws that formed this massive array Dao combination was at least a heaven-breaking Tier 9 array Dao formation. The power of such a huge array formation had far exceeded that of a peak heaven-breaking rank 9 array formation. It was comparable to a half-step eternal array formation. Zhuowen's expression was grave. He knew that such a complex formation was the result of countless years of work by the powerful formation masters of Hushu City. Ancient Void Devil, the three of you should enter the great world first. Without my orders, don't come out. Zhuowen said, yes. The ancient demon of the void, the heavenly fiend evil king, and the alien demon king didn't dare to disobey Zhuowen's order. They turned into 3 beams of light and entered the great world. Luke, I think you know better than me what to do next. Zhuowen looked coldly at Luke beside him. His voice was as cold as ice. Luke couldn't help but shudder and hurriedly cupped his hands in acknowledgement. With his sole imprint in Zhuowen's hands, he really didn't dare to do anything out of the ordinary. Under Luke's guidance, the two of them arrived at the city gate at the bottom of Hushu City. The divine city of Hushu was indeed magnificent. The city walls were made from rare jade stones. and the city gate that stood at the very front was made from a combination of various glowing and colorful ores. Esteemed King Valurium, when Luke arrived at the city gate, the 2 guards at the gate knelt on the ground with reverence. Luke just nodded and led Zhuowen into the city. As one of the 9 kings of Hushu, Luke had a noble status. The palace he lived in was called the Valurium Palace, and it was located on the 90th floor of the city. In the divine city of Hushu, the higher one's status was, the higher the floor one lived on. Each of the 9 kings of Hushu had a floor's ruling authority. For example, Luke, the Valurium king, lived on the 90th floor of the divine city of Hushu. He had complete control over the 90th floor. Among the 9 kings of Valurium, the god Thunder King, who ranked first, lived on the 99th floor. His status and glory were second only to those on the 100th floor. The highest floor of the divine city of Hushu was the 100th floor. Huxley's team leader, Lu Renjue, and the 3 guardians of Hushu lived there. Lu Renjue, in particular, was the leader of a clan. He had supreme authority and power, and was respected by countless living beings in the divine city of Hushu. In every floor of the divine city of Hushu, there was a teleportation formation. Through the teleportation formations, living beings in the city could be teleported to any floor. Of course, this was only in theory. Every floor of the divine city of Hushu had a corresponding guardian deity. Without the guardian deity's permission, one could easily be killed by the guardian deity if one entered the corresponding floor without permission. Of course, this rule only applied when living beings of the lower floors went to the upper floors. If living beings of the upper floors came to the lower floors, there was no such rule. Such rich energy. When Luke led Zhuowen to the 90th floor through the teleportation formation, Zhuowen felt the rich energy in the air. He felt refreshed. Master, in the divine city of Hushu, the higher the floor, the richer the energy, Luke explained. Zhuowen nodded. He scanned the area with his divine consciousness and found that there were many living beings on the 90th floor of the divine city of Hushu. Not only were there humans, but there were also other races living here. When these living beings saw Luke, they all prostrated themselves in front of him and called out King Valurium's honorific name. Luke didn't care at all. He walked slowly through the kneeling crowd until he reached the Valurium Palace where he lived. Master, the Ghost King Ridge is about to open. Why don't you join the Valurium Palace and enter the Ghost King Ridge as a disciple of the Valurium Palace? Luke said in a deep voice. Zhuowen nodded. He didn't have any objections. Master, you're back. The Valurium Palace was resplendent and magnificent. In the palace, a young and beautiful woman with pointy ears hurried forward and bowed deeply to Luke. Master, she's my only disciple. Her name is Sammy, and she's from the elf tribe. Luke wanted to call Zhuowen Master subconsciously, but the latter's eyes made him change his mind. He introduced the beautiful elf in front of him to Zhuowen. Sammy's pointy ears moved up and down. Her big eyes looked curiously at Zhuowen. Master, he is... Sammy asked. His name is Zhuowen. He'll be my first disciple in the future, and also your senior brother. Luke said, Master, I'm your first disciple. He just joined, right? How did he become my senior brother? Sammy said with some dissatisfaction. Luke said sternly, What? My words don't mean anything to you? May's head drooped, and he cupped his hands towards Zhuowen somewhat unwillingly, calling him senior brother. Zhuowen smiled and said, Junior sister Sammy, please guide me. Sammy, you can leave first. I still have some things to say to your senior brother. Luke said sternly. Sammy didn't dare to disobey and left the palace. Master, Luke was a little frightened. Zhuowen waved his hand and said, It's fine, since I'm entering Hushu City as your disciple. In the future, you can call me by my name in front of outsiders. Luke was relieved. He cupped his fists at Zhuowen and said, "In that case, I'll have to offend you. By the way, Master, Sammy will also participate in the opening of the Ghost King Ridge this time. She's my only disciple. I hope that Master can take care of her if you have the chance." Chapter 4034. Oh, right. I heard that there's a divine herb called the Limitless Longevity in Huxley. Zhuowen suddenly said, casually. Luke's pupils shrank. His eyes flashed, and he cupped his fists. "Master, you are indeed a genius. There is indeed such a divine herb in our clan." "Do you know the exact location of the Limitless Longevity divine herb?" Zhuowen asked. Luke groaned inwardly. He paused for a moment, then asked carefully, "Master, do you need this divine herb?" "Yes, I really need this divine medicine." Zhuowen didn't plan to beat around the bush. "This." Luke hesitated. "Humph." Zhuowen snorted coldly. Luke, who had been hesitating, suddenly felt a splitting headache. He screamed and fell to the ground. He covered his head with both hands and rolled around. "Master, I was wrong. I'll tell you now." Luke hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhuowen. His divine soul imprint was under Zhuowen's control. Zhuowen only needed to use his divine will, and Luke would immediately feel a splitting headache. It was as if his soul was about to explode. That kind of pain was unbearable even for an early-stage ancient star transformation elite like Luke. Zhuowen nodded faintly and withdrew his divine sense. Only then did Luke stand up awkwardly. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at Zhuowen fearfully. "Speak," Zhuowen said calmly. "Master, the Limitless Longevity divine herb is one of the most precious divine herbs in Huxley. Such precious divine herbs are usually placed in the most secret of places, on the 100th floor of Hushu City. On the 100th floor of Huxley City, there is a divine medicine pavilion. It stores countless precious divine herbs that Huxley has accumulated over the years. I think the Limitless Longevity divine herb is there." Luke's voice was very soft, and there was a slight tremble in it. "Are you sure?" Zhuowen asked with a frown. "I'm not sure." Luke shook his head and continued, "Since I've just become one of the 9 kings of Hushu, I don't know much about the 100th level of Hushu City." Zhuowen frowned. Even Luke didn't know much about Hushu City. It would be difficult for him to obtain the limitless divine herb after rescuing Shan Lingyun. "Before the Ghost King Ridge opens, I must thoroughly investigate the exact location of Limitless Longevity," Zhuowen thought to himself. "When will the Ghost King Ridge open?" Zhuowen asked. "1 month later," Luke replied. "Do you have any way to get me to the 100th floor of Hushu City within a month?" Zhuowen asked calmly. Luke's expression changed slightly. Zhuowen's eyes turned cold. Luke shuddered and hurriedly said, "Master, don't worry. Even if I have to go through fire and water, I will get you to the 100th floor of Hushu City." Zhuowen nodded satisfactorily and said, "I'll give you 3 days. If you can't get it done in 3 days, you'll have to deal with it yourself." After saying that, Zhuowen unceremoniously entered the main hall and closed the door. Luke stayed outside the hall with a bitter smile on his face. 3 days later, Luke knocked on the door of the hall. Zhuowen opened the door and walked out. He looked at Luke and asked, "Is it done?" Luke said respectfully, "Master, everything is done. I've gotten you a place to listen to the lecture at the Supreme Temple on the 100th floor of Hushu City." Supreme Temple? Zhuowen looked at Luke in confusion. Luke hurriedly explained. Only then did Zhuowen understand what kind of place this so-called absolute divine temple was. Supreme Temple was Huxley's patriarch Lu Renjue's hall. Supreme Temple was completely open. Periodically, Huxley's experts would become Supreme Temple's lecturers and explain the difficult and complicated cultivation problems in the hall. Of course, Huxley had so many juniors, but not all of them had the opportunity to enter the Supreme Temple to listen to the lectures. Only extremely talented juniors who had been recommended by powerful elders were qualified to enter the Supreme Temple to listen to the lectures. As one of the 9 kings of Hushu, Luke's position and strength were extremely powerful. Any juniors he recommended, even if they were pigs, could directly enter the Supreme Temple to listen to the lectures. Master, you can enter the Supreme Temple today. Every lecture is half a month. The lecture will officially start tomorrow. Oh, right. This time, I recommended you and my disciple, Sammy. Luke said respectfully. You've done well. Zhuowen said indifferently. Luke was flattered and smiled as he led him out of the colored glaze hall. Outside the colored glaze hall, Sammy was standing there. When she saw Luke and Zhuowen come out, she hurriedly went to greet them. At the same time, Sammy strangely found that her master Luke was actually following behind the unfamiliar youth that she had just brought back yesterday. It looked like Luke was the unfamiliar youth's follower, but Sammy didn't think too much about it. She just thought that Luke was deliberately lagging behind. She would never have thought that her most respected master had actually become Zhuowen's servant. His life and death were no longer in her control. Sammy, when you go to the Supreme Temple, you have to listen to your senior Zhuowen's words. Do you understand? Luke came in front of Sammy and said sternly to Sammy. Luke was afraid that Sammy would offend Zhuowen, so he warned Sammy strictly. Sammy pouted. She was very unwilling. On what basis? This fellow had just arrived yesterday, and somehow he had become her senior brother. Now, her master was unreasonably telling her to listen to this cheap senior brother unconditionally. She felt very wronged. But Luke's stern attitude and words made her not dare to refute. She admired Luke very much. After all, the latter was one of the youngest 9 kings in Huxley's history. After Luke warned Sammy, he led the 2 to the teleportation formation. They planned to directly enter the 100th floor through the teleportation formation on the 90th floor. Lord King Valurium. The guards guarding the teleportation formation prostrated themselves on the ground when they realized that it was Luke. Open the teleportation formation and send us to the 100th floor. Luke said, My lord, you also know the rules. If you want to enter the corresponding upper levels, you must go through the corresponding procedures. This humble one dares not violate this rule. The guard knelt on the ground and said rather nervously. Luke wasn't surprised. He took out a jade slip and threw it to the guard. This is the Supreme Temple's handwritten order. I entered the 100th floor to bring my disciple to the Supreme Temple to cultivate. After the guard confirmed that the handwritten order was correct, he returned the handwritten order to Luke and activated the teleportation formation. Luke took the 3 people and stepped into the teleportation formation. White light erupted and enveloped the 3 people. In the blink of an eye, the 3 people disappeared into the teleportation formation. Chapter 40:35. Wow, is this the highest level of Hushu, Divine City? What rich energy! And these palaces are so majestic. Sami opened her eyes and saw the magnificent scene in front of her. She exclaimed in admiration and jumped up and down like a country bumpkin entering a city. This mountain peak is called God Extinction Mountain. There are many magnificent divine palaces built here. Only experts who have contributed to Huxley can have their own divine palaces on God Extinction Mountain. Luke introduced, Master, you also have a shrine here, right? May asked, Luke was a little embarrassed and said, "Although I am one of the 9 kings of Huxley and my strength is sufficient, my contributions are not enough. I am unable to have my own divine palace here." Sa-me quickly shut her mouth and slapped her forehead. She knew that she had asked a stupid question. With Master's ability, it is only a matter of time before you have your own divine palace here. Sa-me stuck out her tongue and said. Luke smiled slightly and led the two of them up the mountain path to the peak of God Extinction Mountain. Along the way, they met many experts. All of them brought their own juniors and walked up the mountain along the mountain path. Obviously, these experts had the same goal as Luke, to bring their juniors into God Extinction Palace to cultivate. At the peak of God Extinction Mountain, there was a huge open space. In front of the open space, there stood a magnificent palace. At this moment, in the open space, a group of experts led their juniors and were testing something. Zhuowen even saw several arenas in the open space. There were figures fighting in the arenas. "Master, they are?" Sa-me asked with some doubt. God Extinction Palace's cultivation quota is limited. Not everyone can come to God Extinction Palace to cultivate. Unless they are recommended by a noble lord, most of the juniors who want to obtain cultivation quota can only fight for it through tests and competitions. Before Luke could speak, a cultured and refined voice sounded. 2 figures walked over from the side. The one walking in front was a middle-aged man wearing a blue robe. Behind the middle-aged man, there was a handsome young man in white clothes. The owner of the voice just now was the young man in white clothes. So it is the Imperial Dragon King. Luke quickly stepped forward and greeted the man in blue robe. "King Valurium, how have you been? Back then, when you were bestowed the title of king, I even attended it. You are the youngest king in Huxley. Your future is limitless." The Imperial Dragon King was also very polite and said some words of praise. Luke repeatedly said that he didn't dare, and the two of them began to exchange pleasantries. "Senior brother Tuoshing, so you're here to study as well?" The moment Sa-me saw the handsome young master, her beautiful eyes lit up. She quickly walked over with a happy smile on her face. The young man named Tuoshing rubbed Sammy's head affectionately, and then looked at Zhuowen, who was standing aside without saying a word. "Sister Sa-me, this is?" Tuoshing asked curiously. Sa-me glanced at Zhuowen and said reluctantly, "He is my eldest senior brother. His name is Zhuowen." Tuosheng had a strange look on his face. "Eldest senior brother? Junior sister Sa-me, I remember that you are His Excellency Valurium's only disciple." Sa-me curled her lips and said, "Master brought him back a few days ago, and he became my eldest senior brother." Tuosheng nodded and said in a low voice, "If Valurium brought him back, he must be very talented, even better than you." "I don't think so," Sa-me said sourly. In fact, she didn't have a good impression of this cheap senior brother who had appeared out of nowhere. "Hello, junior brother Zhuowen. My name is Tuosheng, the Imperial Dragon King's personal disciple." Tuosheng stepped forward and took the initiative to greet Zhuowen with a warm smile on his face. Zhuowen looked Tuosheng up and down and smiled. "Hello, senior brother Tuosheng. My name is Zhuowen, Valurium King's new disciple." Zhuowen didn't say a word after that. He looked around and didn't pay attention to Tuosheng at all. He didn't come to Hushu City to study, but to find the specific location of limitless longevity under the guise of studying. He didn't plan to get close to either Sa-me or Tuosheng. It would only be a waste of his time. Tuosheng frowned slightly. Obviously, he didn't like Zhuowen's cold attitude. However, he didn't show it on his face and continued to be elegant. "Imperial Dragon King, why is the Supreme Temple so crowded this time? There aren't so many people usually." Luke looked at the sea of people taking the test with a puzzled look on his face. Valurium King, don't you know about the news? The Imperial Dragon King asked in surprise. What news? I left Huxley a while ago and just came back. Luke asked curiously. The Imperial Dragon King nodded and continued, I heard that the Patriarch will be personally teaching the Supreme Temple. What? The Patriarch will be personally teaching the Supreme Temple. Valurium King was shocked. The Patriarch of Huxley, Lu Renjua, was the strongest existence in the Huxley realm. The things he understood far surpassed other experts. When Lu Renjua personally taught the Supreme Temple, not only were the juniors of Huxley tempted, but many of the older experts of Huxley were also tempted. However, there was an age limit to cultivating in the Temple of Absolute God, which disappointed many experts of the older generation. However, it also caused a stir in the entire Huxley. The juniors of the entire Huxley realm were eager to take action. They came one after another to fight for a spot in the Supreme Temple. There were also many juniors who were carrying out missions outside. When they heard the news, they rushed back to enter the Supreme Temple. Because the Patriarch will be personally teaching the Supreme Temple, the disciples of the 9 kings of Huxley have all participated in the Supreme Temple. The Imperial Dragon King said in a deep voice. Luke's expression darkened when he heard that. There was no doubt that the Supreme Temple would be heavily guarded because of Lu Renjua's personal teaching. The 9 kings of Huxley and the 3 great protectors would be guarding the vicinity of the Supreme Temple during this period. He knew the reason why Zhuowen had come here under such a heavily guarded situation. He slightly doubted if Zhuowen would really be able to completely find out the whereabouts of the boundless longevity divine herb under the circumstances of alerting the others. Luke looked at Zhuowen worriedly when he thought of this. If Zhuowen's whereabouts were exposed, he would also be in trouble. Valurium King, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale?